A bit of overcast and haze over Chicago on the first Saturday of fall, but certainly no overcast feelings at Wrigley Field. Optimism riding high into the fall as Fox Saturday Baseball presents two postseason hopefuls, the St. Louis Cardinals and the Chicago Cubs. A glance at the pregame National League wildcard standings. They find the St. Louis Cardinals, for the moment, temporarily perhaps, on the outside looking in, with New York and San Francisco holding both of the chairs. The Cardinals just a half game off the pace with 1 week remaining in the 2016 season. With that, we welcome you inside the broadcast booth with Hall of Famer John Smoltz, Matt Vasgersian, and for the Cardinals, John, for the reasons we just saw, the postseason has already begun, and today they hand the ball to a 22-year-old rookie making just his fourth major league start in big stakes.
Yeah, and he's been incredible. When he came up out of the pen, he was firing bullets at 99 to 100 miles an hour. But now he's almost become a complete pitcher, and he has done some of their best work of recent. He's throwing changeups and broke out his slider. It's a fastball curveball guy, but he has delivered, especially during the day. He hasn't given up a run. And for the Cardinals, who are used to winning the division the last 3 years, their games mean so much moving forward. They're just hoping to get in the postseason, and they're going to have to take care of business today, because tomorrow Lester is going for the Cubs.
Yeah, and Reyes and the Cardinals have to deal with the beast of not only the National League Central, but in all of Major League Baseball this year. It's been an incredible run so far for Joe Maddon's Chicago Cubs. We could list the superlatives from an individual basis until we're blue in the face. Some of the big team notes, however: 98 wins, the most in Major League Baseball. And if they win one of their two remaining home games, the Chicago Cubs will set a new franchise record for home victories. Oh, and there's the 244-plus run differential, the best this franchise has seen in over 100 years.
Yeah, and you know, if you think about it, this is the first time for Joe Maddon to be in this arena, meaning he has it clinched. Now his strategy is about trying to figure out how does he keep his guys rested, but at the same time ready to go. And I think for the Chicago Cubs, this is going to be a relaxing 9 days. And then when they get ready for the postseason, they're going to have every weapon that they could possibly want ready to go. And that's why they're the team favored to go to the World Series.
Joe Maddon telling us he still wants his guys to compete down the stretch, which they certainly have done, winning the opener in this series yesterday. Well, the I-55 series, the 2016 running of it, is down to its final couple of games, but there are bigger things at stake than just regional bragging rights. Cardinals and Cubs are coming up next. Welcome back to Wrigley Field with John Smoltz and Ken Rosenthal. Matt Vasgersian back on a gorgeous Saturday afternoon for baseball, heading into the fall, the first Saturday of the fall season, and another big crowd expected for a great baseball rivalry, and one that, as we indicated, has more at stake than just regional bragging rights. Let's get right to Mike Matheny's Cardinals batting lineup, brought to you by Pepsi. Matt Carpenter leads things off. Stephen Piscotti, Brandon Moss, and Johnny Peralta 2 through 4. That group has been cold. They'd like to finish strong starting today. Matt Adams bats number 5 at first base. The 7-time All-Star Yadi Molina in the 6th spot. Randall Grichuk, Aledmus Diaz, and today's starter Alex Reyes round things out for the Cardinals. On the mound for the Cubs, making his 30th starting assignment of the year, the veteran right-hander Jason Hamill, coming off a winner his last time around here against the Reds, and he is underway with strike 1.
Yeah, throwing strikes is going to be the key, especially getting ahead, which is what Hamill likes to do. Relies on that slider and 2-seam fastball.
And quickly in front of Matt Carpenter, 0-2.
Well, he was trying to shake the second half blues and did a nice job after the All-Star break. 6-0, under 1 ERA. The last 6 not so good. He's hit a few bumps in the road lately.
It's almost as though you could cut the season into thirds for Jason Hamill, as he finally misses to Carpenter. A ball and 2 strikes starts his afternoon. A good start, as we mentioned last time around Monday against the Reds. 7 innings, allowed just 2 earned runs, struck out 6. And he starts his day today with a strikeout of Matt Carpenter.
You see that pitch. Maybe Carpenter thought it was low. But the key for me and the key for the Cubs is home sweet Hamill. Boy, does he love teeing it up at home. 10-1, 1.84 ERA. As most of these Cubs starters love pitching in this home ballpark.
Today's Keys brought to you by the Lincoln Motor Company. And yeah, the home numbers for Hamill are hard to ignore as he goes to work on Stephen Piscotti with 1 away. And they're even better as we end the regular season. He's 7-0 here in his last 7 home starts with an ERA under 1. And it's hard to imagine a guy with that kind of home success possibly being left out of a postseason rotation. That's how rich the Cubs are in their starting 5.
Yeah, he may not even make the roster, like you said.
Stephen Piscotti with a drive into the opposite field. That ball well hit. Hayward circling under it, just shy of the ivy for out number 2. Looked like the wind got a hold of that and knocked it down and made it a rather routine play.
It's been kind of a consistent theme all year. The wind has been blowing in, which you know is going to help the starting pitching. Offense is going to suffer, but the balance of the Cubs have been so good. So each pitcher has benefited from a consistency of predominant winds blowing in for most of the year.
2 out, bases empty now for the St. Louis left fielder Brandon Moss. Moss has struggled down the stretch. It's tough to color it any other way. 5 for his last 70 over his last 21 games. That's a batting average of 71 cents. Yet he represents the kind of power threat that you might not necessarily see coming. And Mike Matheny told us before the game, we've got to ride through a stretch like this for what Brandon Moss brings when he gets hot, and that can seemingly come at the drop of a hat.
Yeah, it's not your typical Cardinals lineup of the years past. At feast or famine, they've hit a lot of home runs. They lead in home runs, but since the second half has been a little bit on a downward trend offensively for the Cardinals.
Yeah, it is very much a atypical Cardinal story this year. They don't run. They don't field particularly well, and those things had been hallmarks of previous postseason St. Louis clubs. And they hit a bunch of home runs. And there's ball 4 to Moss. So a 2-out base runner here in the Cardinal half of the first, and an opportunity for the 3-time All-Star third baseman Johnny Peralta.
The Cubs have done a nice job against Johnny Peralta. You see him batting in the 4 spot. with Adams and Molina behind him.
Peralta's one of a handful of Cardinals, and it's really kind of a lineup theme today to have had considerable previous success against Jason Hamill. And I guess if we're to restate the big picture, John, I mean, these are must-win games for St. Louis at this point of the year. Two teams in very different places on this Saturday.
Well, no doubt, and they get a chance to go home and finish the season. No matter what happens in this series, they'll be mathematically alive for the postseason, but you know that each win they could get in this series would go a long way. As we mentioned, Lester, who has been on fire for the Cubs, pitching tomorrow. So you would sense a kind of an urgency for the Cardinals to try and at least take this game to salvage the series if they're going to have a chance going into tomorrow night's game.
Mets playing later on tonight, hosting the Phillies. The Giants are in San Diego again with Madison Bumgarner on the mound.
It's amazing how the psychology of a team and season goes based on who's on the mound or based on what you have confidence in. And their young pitcher Arias, yet to take the mound, of course, has been providing some huge innings lately. But you find yourself playing that matchup game, even if you're a player. You're like, okay, we got this matchup today. Tomorrow you start looking ahead and you start mapping out what the season's going to be, and before you know it, you're in more desperation games than you want to be in because you haven't taken care of business.
Well, we say it so often during these telecasts, you know, too early to scoreboard watch. That is not the case any longer. I mean, the Cardinals have been in scoreboard watch mode here for the last couple of weeks. And again, down to the last week's worth of schedule, a half game out of that second and final wild card spot in the National League. And it's still a 2-2 count, rather 2-2 count to Johnny Peralta. The Giants have had all they can handle in San Diego this year. The Mets have somehow been able to stay wild card relevant in the midst of what we would have thought to be devastating pitching injuries. And if you're a betting man, this race has a pretty good chance of going down to the final weekend, if not final day of the season, a week from tomorrow. We mentioned the Mets and Giants later on tonight, and each of those teams stays within its respective division, as do the Cardinals, for the final week of the season. If you've been paying attention, there's all kinds of hairy math involved in a three-way tie. We'll kind of play those scenarios out for you here on the telecast a little bit later on today. And Hamill just misses the outside corner. It's a full count, 3-2.
Well, that's a signature of Hamill. His fastball down plays really well. He needs to keep the ball down, and then he complements it with a curveball slider combination.
Moss will have a head start with 2 out on a 3-2 pitch on its way to Johnny Peralta. There goes Moss in the 3-2 home. Little excuse me swing and a base hit into right field.
That's always further evidence of when a guy checks his swing and said the umpire says no and the dugout yells he could have got a double on it. There's a great example of sometimes just making an excuse me swing. The infield playing more for Johnny to pull, of course. Pitchers don't like that at all, I can tell you.
So Moss at third, Peralta at first. A little 2-out rally here, and it's going to bring up Matt Adams, the power hitting first baseman. That one gets away from Contreras. Moss thought about trying to score, then thinks better of it. Advancing on the back end of the wild pitch is Peralta. Runners at second and third.
Well, as the runner at third, Moss doesn't have blazing speed, but if you don't pick this up right away, there's a short backdrop and it's brick. So here's the breaking ball, spikes it, and he doesn't pick it up right away, but see how the ball bounces back? Now here's what Moss is reading. Not sure, and you can't hesitate that many times. And of course, it's a do or die play sometimes for the catcher to pick it up off the wall. You can see his foot slips right here, and he doesn't come up with the ball at first because he thinks the runner's going.
The crew is going to take another look here because at issue is whether or not this ball hit Matt Adams.
It does hit him in the back knee.
It sure looked like the ball changed direction after hitting the dirt and then came up, and you can see the uniform kind of bristle there too. It looks pretty clear.
Well, for the Cardinals, if that is the case, Yadier Molina has been pretty hot of late. So he would come up with the bases loaded. His last 30 games hitting at a .333 clip. And pretty good with runners in scoring position. Cardinals have had a strange year because it's not prototypically what you would think about on the formula to get them to this point. It's really been power driven offensive. Their starting staff has had some injuries but hasn't delivered as they did last year, where they were lights out in their route to 100 wins.
Yeah, they're going to say that ball hit Matt Adams, and that's going to load the bases. You know, there was a similar play yesterday, at least one that thought to be reviewed. Mike Leake yesterday was hit by this pitch. It was called a swinging strike because Leake offered at it. He ended up fouling it away. Thus, it was not reviewable, even though the Cardinals thought that that was worthy of another look. And as you can see, it did look like that ball hit Mike Leake, but it was called a swinging strike, a foul tip on a swinging strike, thus not a reviewable play. Bases are loaded here, and Yadier Molina takes a swing at the first pitch.
Yeah, Yadi also likes going after the first pitch. He leads the team in first pitch hits with 40. So he definitely picks his spots where he's getting really aggressive, and he was committed there. Good pitch selection by Hamill to throw a slider.
Molina, one of the Cardinals who has been swinging the bat well down the stretch. He's hit in 9 in a row, and he's driven in a run here. At least one. Moss scores. Here's Peralta right behind him. Adams to third, and it's 2-0 St. Louis.
Well, they want to go inside, and Yadi does a pretty good job of pulling his hands in. You see the pitch, and you see where Bryant didn't have a chance to react because the ball was hit by him. Good piece of hitting by Yadier Molina, and as we mentioned, on a roll offensively, and that's what the Cardinals needed. They needed some kind of feel-good early. Yesterday's game just felt blah from the day Jake Arrieta stepped on the mound and didn't give up any runs.
Here's Randall Grichuk now. Grichuk's hit safely in 18 of his last 21, and like Molina before him, has been great in the month of September. Adams and Molina aboard, a 2-0 Cardinal lead early. Well, Jason Hamill got through the first 2 hitters on 7 pitches, but is having trouble here to close out the first. Adams scores on the base hit. Here's Molina to cross the plate, and it's 4-0 St. Louis.
Well, once again, you see the ball just a little bit too much of the plate. You saw the spin, the slider spin. Grichuk did a nice job, not trying to do too much. Right now, you got to feel pretty good if you're Alex Reyes getting a 4 spot to start this game out on.
Here's Aledmus Diaz now. You got to feel pretty good if you're Mike Matheny too, right? You challenged that ball in the dirt that came up and hit Matt Adams. And then a pair of 2-run hits follow the double by Molina, the single by Grichuk. We can go back even farther than that to this little 2-out 3-2 pitch, the excuse me base hit by Johnny Peralta that kept the inning alive.
Yeah, that's the craziness about pitching. Not every really good pitch produces an out. Not every bad pitch produces a hit.
Ball and 2 strikes, the count to Aledmys Diaz, the 8th Cardinal to bat in this opening inning. I mean, forget about looking up at the standings, which tell you all you need to know about the urgency for St. Louis this afternoon. It has not been a particularly great week for the Cardinals. They lose 11-1 in Denver on Wednesday, shut out yesterday to start this series. They have responded to start this one in a big way. On the appeal, they say that Diaz swung the bat not before 4 runs can cross the plate in the top of the first. A pair of 2-out 2-run hits by Molina and Grichuk doing the damage. It's 4-0 Cardinals. In for the Cardinals in the pair of a couple of 2-run knocks. Yadi Molina and Randall Grichuk delivering a 4-0 lead. And here's how the Cubs will try to chip away. Taking a look at Joe Maddon's Cubs Pepsi starting lineup. Dexter Fowler leads it off. And then between Bryant, Rizzo, Zobrist, and Russell, all All-Stars in 2016 and all big contributors all year long. Jason Hayward's in right field batting 6th. Jorge Soler gets the nod in left. Wilson Contreras has hit in 4 in a row. He catches today. Jason Hamill in the 9th spot. This group of Cubs facing the rookie right-hander Alex Reyes, making just his 4th starting assignment of the year. He was particularly impressive in his last outing against the Giants. Went 7 innings, allowed 4 hits, 7 shutout innings, that is, struck out 6 and walked only 2. Ball and no strikes to Dexter Fowler, make it 1-1, and we're going to see perhaps a different Alex Reyes today, John, than the one that debuted with the Cardinals a little over a month ago as a reliever.
Yeah, really impressed with the short-term turnaround of a complete pitcher.
Dexter Fowler's aboard.
What I mean by that is fastball came in out of the pen at 98, 99, and even 100 miles an hour, and he was rearing back and just letting it go. He did that a lot in the minor leagues. He was getting into trouble by the 6th inning with the pitch count. So far he has been able to mix in a fastball, curveball, slider, and changeup. And I believe that the changeup will be a weapon for today's game if he's going to be successful against the Cubs.
Here's Chris Bryant now with the leadoff hitter aboard. Bryant starts play hot. He's hit in 3 in a row and 28 of his last 32 for a bigger stretch. Doing nothing to diminish his MVP candidacy this year. Another big week at Cincinnati's expense. He's become public enemy #1 in that city. And it's 2 balls and no strikes to Chris Bryant.
Well, a lot of guys down the stretch who have been fantastic all year. It's almost hard to keep up that pace. He struggled a little bit in September. And you got to understand that a lot of these Cubs, even though they still want to perform and be great, there's a little less of an emergency type attitude to play in these games when you know you're looking forward to the postseason. You're trying to finish strong as you can, but the intensity is not quite the same when you've had this big a lead. So managers all throughout baseball and all throughout history are trying to figure out how to handle it best moving forward when you have such a huge lead.
2 balls and no strikes, the count to Chris Bryant. Yeah, Joe Madden visiting with us before the game, while not tipping us off to any specific methodology, hinted that Cubs games may look a little bit different next week. He wants his bullpen work to be scripted, so that means Aroldis Chapman might pitch next week in a non-save situation. He might not even pitch in the 9th inning necessarily. But to your point, John, Joe wants to get everybody kind of in that balance of competing and getting work in while not risking injury or overtaxing anybody. That's a very delicate line to walk.
Yeah, it's going to be more like spring training games in his words.
A strike to Bryant. It's 3-1.
Reyes has fairly simple mechanics with a live arm, and his front shoulder is the only thing that gets him a little bit off the command issue. That front shoulder has to stay away from pulling towards his first baseman, going straight and quiet with that front shoulder. And why I'm so impressed in a guy that come out of the pen in the minor leagues, that's the danger of our sport. We bring guys up so quick because they got great arms. They're a little underdeveloped as far as a pitcher goes, but he's been able to adopt and adapt really quickly in these last 2 starts by not just rearing back and throwing. He's using his off-speed pitches quite well.
Bryant giving him all he can handle, still a 3-2 count.
So that front shoulder, see how it stays a little closed, but when it starts pulling, that glove arm starts pulling him away from home plate, that's where he gets offline and can get into some command issues, especially with that fastball. But it works on every pitch. You need that front shoulder to be so quiet.
And there's ball 4 to Bryant. Control trouble has been an issue for Alex Reyes in the past, though last start you'd never know about it. 2 starts ago, however, against these Cubs, there were some control difficulties, but I think the pitcher-catcher relationship has really blossomed since then. Ken Rosenthal has a little bit more on that.
Well, Matt, Yadier Molina certainly has an effect on every pitcher he catches, but in the minor leagues, the rap on Reyes was, hey, he's not pitch efficient. Well, working with Yadi, suddenly he's got better command.
Here's Anthony Rizzo now with runners at first and second, and Rizzo takes a strike.
Yeah, and it's easier said than done. It's trusting that off-speed pitches in counts at 2-0 and 3-1 that takes sometimes a year or 2 for a young pitcher to feel comfortable because he's so used to overpowering people in the minor leagues. And his ability to do that against the Giants and, as you mentioned, against the Cubs with a lot of stress. Stress meaning your club needs you. He hadn't given up any runs against those 2 clubs in pivotal situations. So not the start you want, though, when you're given 4-run lead in the first inning.
Yeah. 0-2 the count to Anthony Rizzo. Ben Zobrist waiting on deck. Reyes still looking for his first out here in the bottom of the first. Anthony Rizzo, as he has done the last couple of years, shortening up with 2 strikes. You can see him choke up pretty significantly there, especially when you consider the fact that he's a power hitter and a run producer. It's a ball and 2 strikes to him now.
Well, he, much like more of his teammates, have made a 1-year adjustment in that area. Strikeouts, they were horrible last year as far as strikeouts.
Reyes gets him to swing and miss. That's the first out of the inning.
Well, that's the changeup right there that he went to, and working off of a 94, 95 mile an hour fastball, being able to change speeds with the same arm action will give hitters fits. You see, there's no wasted motion. He goes straight towards home plate. The hitter reads a fastball spin, but the change of velocity just gets him out in front.
So now Ben Zobrist, the switch hitting 3-time All-Star, at 267 to start play today. Middle of the Cubs order with a chance to get some of that early damage back quickly.
The Cubs, much like, I don't know, the closest team I would think would be the Red Sox in the American League. Of course, the Red Sox have the longest lineup, most ridiculous lineup in the American League and in all of baseball.
Into the right field corner, and some of that damage will come back immediately. Fowler scores easily. Here's Bryant without a play. Zobrist to third. And about 10 minutes after the Cardinals take a 4-0 lead, it's cut in half.
Yeah, these hurt right here. See the fastball over the middle of the plate. Zobrist can handle the bat on both sides of the plate. And he's another reason why this lineup got better by adding him. Bryant can pick him up and put him down. Very athletic, as is most of this lineup. The Chicago Cubs can beat you with their legs, defense, power, pitching, you name it, they can do it.
And that brings up one of Chicago's best run producers since about the midway point of the season, the All-Star shortstop Addison Russell.
Yeah, you already saw the velocity go up right there. 97 miles an hour on a fastball above the hands.
Russell would love to pick this as the spot to break out of a little mini slide. 0 for his last 8 at the plate. Chance for him with a runner at third and 1 gone. Of course, to be a run producer, you have to have the opportunity. And Russell, since being moved into the 5 spot in a very productive lineup, has had plenty of opportunities to cash in, and he's taken advantage.
I think this is still going to be one of the greatest discussions moving forward. I get it, in 162 games. I know why Bryant's batting second. But in the postseason, this part of their lineup is going to be tested mightily. And if they have the current lineup, let's just say, with Russell and Hayward struggling as much as he has, Soler can strike out like he can, and the young Contreras, that's the interesting challenge. When you think about a lineup that's long, Bryant 3, Rizzo 4, Zobrist in the second spot, maybe. That's a little bit more intriguing postseason. I doubt that's what Joe Maddon's going to do and change it when he gets to the postseason.
And a wave and a miss by Russell. 2 gone for Reyes.
But I'm telling you, you're going to have pitchers going through. If they have any trouble at all with the front part of that lineup, they're going to say, the heck with it. I'm going to make these guys beat me. I'm going to make Jason Hayward try to get a big hit. I'm going to go after the young, aggressive hitters who expand the zone. As a whole, the Cubs do a nice job in cutting down their strikeouts. But it's this part of the lineup that I'm going to be very intrigued to see what Joe Maddon does come postseason time.
Well, you could understand that from the standpoint of an opposing manager. If in fact you're going to isolate one hitter or one part of the lineup that you're just not going to let get to you. Hayward's problems have been well documented. There's a pop for the left side of the infield. But 2 of those runs do come back immediately. Ben Zobrist with a 2-run triple. And at the end of just an inning, it's a 4-2 Cardinal lead. Today's telecast is sponsored by T-Mobile, bringing you greater coverage of today's game. Back with John Smoltz and Ken Rosenthal, Matt Vasgersian, and a 4-2 St. Louis lead. Jason Hamill will try to get the wheels back on here in the second. He'll go to work on the number 9 hitter Alex Reyes, and then the top of the order Carpenter and Piscotti in the Cardinals' second. You know, for what it's worth, and you start thinking this way when you envision potential division series matchups, the Cardinals haven't really buckled under the enormous weight of the Cubs at home. St. Louis is a rather respectable 5-3 here. I mean, more than respectable, downright good. They swept the series here earlier this season. And when you consider the rest of the NL Central is 5-22 here at Wrigley Field, it really speaks to what the Cardinals have accomplished head-to-head on the road against the Cubs.
Yeah, it's really not fair what the Cubs are going to be dealing with in general. Haven't won a World Series in forever. A team that everyone expected would be this good before the season started.
Reyes with a little slicing flare to Zobrist, and there's one away.
They're going to have so much pressure on them no matter who they play in that first round, that best of 5. I almost feel like they get through the best of 5 and then they truly can flex their muscles in the rest of the series. That best of 5 and played here the first 2 games. The Cardinals just don't. They've just been through too much. They still have a core of players that have won 3 divisions in a row and trying to get back to the postseason, almost in an ironic way. Try to do with the Cubs this year what the Cubs did to the Cardinals last year, right? The Cardinals won 100 games.
Yep.
Cubs got in the wild card.
Yep.
Rode that streak. So you almost think if the Cards could find a way to get in and win that 1-game playoff, go, hey, we got every single aspect that we can beat this ball club. The Cubs have significantly improved since last year, though.
Carpenter with a drive out to center field. Fowler gliding a couple of steps to his right for route number 2.
Here's why I think the Cubs become so much better than last year. They've improved in really some key areas. The average has gone better with the addition of some players. Their on-base percentage obviously first, but it's that strikeouts. They were dead last year, and now they've made significant improvements in the length of their lineup and the ability for their lineup to be more stingy. There were just too many places you could go last year, and the single most, I got to give this guy credit. Baez was a historic strikeout rate machine last year, and not only is he one of their most valuable commodities, he has adjusted well. Now, will the pressure of the postseason get him back towards his norm, or will the consistency of the work that he's done make him that much more of a threat with the opportunity to play multiple positions and not swing and expand the zone?
Stephen Piscotti with a drive to left. Soler doesn't even bother moving. That one is gone out of the ballpark. Stephen Piscotti had been 5 for his last 37, but a tape measure home run has put the Cardinals on top by 3.
Another hanging. That's a recipe. A slider that does not break away and stays in the middle of the plate. Hitters love that. Somebody with a good arm, by the way, out there in Waveland Avenue throwing a ball close to the shortstop.
Did that come back from the street?
From the street.
Somebody get out there with a contract and sign the kid that threw it over the stands and back into the field. Meanwhile, Stephen Piscotti has a contract. He also has got his 22nd home run of the year and a 5-2 St. Louis lead. Unforgettable games, undeniable greatness, and unstoppable drama of the 2016 postseason. It all begins October 4th. Go to MLB.com/postseason for a full schedule. Well, the Cardinals have scored 5 runs early against Jason Hamill today. All 5 of those runs have been scored with 2 out in the inning. It's been kind of a season-long theme for the St. Louis lineup. So Jorge Soler will start the chip away process again. Soler, Contreras, and Hamill. Bottom of the order here in the bottom of the second. Oh, 0-2 quickly from Alex Reyes.
Well, it's funny. We were talking, and I asked Mike Matheny, what would you like to do or trade offensively? In other words, what statistic or what area would you like to trade for some, maybe your power the all or nothing type approach. He said, more homers. We need to hit more homers. That's how we're built.
Imagine a world where a Cardinal manager is saying, you know, hey, we don't need to slap it around anymore. We're not going to run. We're not going to manufacture. We're just going to sit back on our heels and hit 3-run bombs.
Oh, I was right with you, Molina.
Full count, 3 balls and 2 strikes. Yeah.
You know, this young kid's going to be a great starter, I think, just the dynamics of what he has. And I think it's unfair to put on him how and what to do when you're given 4 runs in the first. What to do when your team scores right away. But you learn as a pitcher, you go out there and that first hitter is so important, right? When the team scores, you got to get him out. That was the thing that was impressed upon us so much. Get that first hitter out. Don't allow the team to get right back in it. Don't give them that sense of we got a chance.
And there's ball 4 to Soler. Well, how about the fact that they've put him into this situation as almost in a potential savior role.
Yeah.
Right, here's a guy whose talent has not been a secret to anybody in the organization. Sure, there were some issues to work through mechanically in regards to walks, but a guy who made his major league debut in August, put into the starting rotation in September in a pennant race, with his team desperately trying to grab one of 2 wild card spots. Here's Wilson Contreras now with the leadoff hitter aboard.
And again, you know, I'm not running a club. No one's asked me to run a club, and certainly it's my opinion that how we go about developing some of these young pitchers with these inning limits and potentially helping a ball club late with these restrictions put upon them. And I sure would like to see, if you know this kid's got a chance to be part of your club that year, why not start him later? Why not keep him in his routine? But what happens is you get him in the minors. They're on a innings limit there. You call him up, throw him in the pen. Dynamic arm, as we talked about. He misses about, I don't know, potentially 3-4 starts. Then they put him back in the rotation and asking him to do exactly what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Not easy at all for a young kid like him.
A ball and a strike to count to the Cubs catcher. You know, I want to bring everybody's attention back to that little biographical note that we saw on the screen a moment ago. The fact that Alex was born and raised in Elizabeth, New Jersey. And he went to high school there for the first couple of years. Pitched, played third, played shortstop, and then after his junior year he moved to the Dominican Republic and lived with his grandmother to establish residency there in order to circumvent the draft procedure. He was able to sign as an international free agent, thus keeping his price high and not subjecting himself to any slot money or any draft process. And there was a little bidding war for his services in December of 2012. The Astros were engaged. So were the Kansas City Royals. The Cardinals that had the top bid, one that would not have existed had Reyes not left the country. And a big wave and a miss by Wilson Contreras for Reyes' 3rd strikeout of the day. Now, what he did was legal. It was perfectly within the rules. There's nothing preventing a player from leaving, establishing residency someplace else. He moved in with his grandmother, after all. It's not like he went and stayed at a hotel for 2 years. But it does bring up the point that the system itself could perhaps use that as the best example in needing to be tweaked. Here's Jason Hamill now. And he gets one past Peralta into the left field corner. Soler to third. Ken Rosenthal, I'm curious your thoughts, the international signing process, and would the Alex Reyes case actually help change those policies?
Matt, there are any number of cases that would lead you to think the policies should be changed. The collective bargaining agreement expires December 1st. Two sides are in negotiation right now, the owners and the players side of the union. Whether they implement an international draft remains to be seen. I would say it's a long shot. Whether they change the rules on international signings, that remains to be seen too. It's a little bit different now. There's a limit, a cap of sorts on international signings. You have to pay a penalty if you exceed a certain amount. But clearly this example shows the system is flawed.
You bet. And until it's changed procedurally, you can only expect more and more players to at least inquire about doing the same thing. You're trying to maximize your abilities as a young kid, maximize your talents, that is, from a financial standpoint. Pitch to Dexter Fowler, misses. It's 1-1.
Also by accident, or not by plan, he did start his season late because he was suspended 50 games in November last year. Minor leagues test for different things, and he got suspended 50 days. Now in the heat of a much needed wins coming down the stretch for the Cardinals, he will be given one more start, more than likely.
Well, you knew that when he pitched at the Futures game in San Diego in July, you knew it was close.
Yeah.
I mean, he was electric. He popped off the page, struck out 4 of the 5 outs that he recorded. And most of us that were in the ballpark that day thought, I mean, the phone could ring tomorrow and he could be in big league St. Louis. He looked like a finished product that day. I know it's a short sample size when you watch a kid for 2 innings. The secondary pitches don't come under focus as much, but talking to Mike Matheny today, the slider's a lot better than advertised. It's probably better than where Reyes thought it was himself. His changeup has made great leaps and bounds, as you talked about, John. Well, they're very excited for his future.
As they should be, because he's got everything you could possibly want. But the problem is that how fast.
2 balls and 2 strikes. The count to Dexter Fowler. Runners at the corners with 1 gone. Into the right field corner. It's back to a 2-run game as Soler scores. They'll hold Hamill at third, and here come the Cubs again. Just appears it's going to be one of those days, John.
Yeah, and again, this one led off with a walk. The first inning led off with a hit. Start putting that undue stress. Derek Wilquist is going to go out there and try to talk into him, but Hamill's on the base pass. The pitchers for the Cubs can handle the bats, by the way.
Little meeting on the mound, and a quick reminder that today's telecast is sponsored by Bank of America. Well, it is September. Rosters are deep. Bullpens are very deep. And Mike Matheny told us about his decision to get Mike Leake out of there yesterday rather early. Look, we have too many guys that can help us on the occasion somebody's struggling. Kind of confirming that these games are being managed with postseason urgency. Here's Chris Bryant now, 2nd and 3rd with a run in.
Great breaking ball. Good first pitch. Lilliquist, of course, trying to settle his youngster down, and Bryant can handle just about anybody's fastball. Changeups, especially from right-handers, have given Bryant and his swing path a little bit of more problems than you would think.
And Bryant sends a fly ball out to shallow left. Diaz calling for it, and he's under it to make the catch. There are 2 away.
A great pitch and a good location against one of the MVP candidates of the year. Up and in. He can't get his hands in the barrel to it. Bryant has tried to keep his swing path and barrel the bat through and longer throughout the plate, creating more coverage and obviously more lift. That's why that changeup would give him problems with that pitch right there, a fastball in up off his hands.
So with 2 out, it's Bryant's co-MVP candidate, Anthony Rizzo. Rizzo, as we mentioned earlier, has hit safely in 7 in a row in the midst of a 10-for-26 final homestand. He's been an absolute terror in day games. 16 home runs, 51 of his 105 RBIs in the afternoon. 1-1. We've had this discussion before. I have a hard time in my mind differentiating between Bryant and Rizzo if I had to pick one Cub for league MVP. I don't think you could make the case for one that strongly over the other.
Yeah, we have all these nuances now that come into Bryant playing multiple positions, which adds to his MVP type credentials. Rizzo, the team leader and very consistent throughout the year. When you add up all the things that Bryant has been able to do and really not suffer offensively, that does give him a leg up. I still think, even though it's the other league,
don't leave us hanging.
I won't. DH has got to get a little more credit. Ortiz is on an MVP run.
A couple of strikeouts for Reyes against Anthony Rizzo. That gets him out of any further trouble in the second. Runs scored in each half inning so far this afternoon. To the top of the third, a 5-3 Cardinals lead, and Johnny Peralta leads things off for St. Louis against Jason Hamill. Peralta, Adams, and Molina as part of the Cardinals order all scored a run in that 4-run first, and Peralta whizzes a base hit back up the middle. Well, we've talked about Jason Hamill's season being up and down in terms of results on the field. He was great right out of the break, winning his first 6 starts, and then has struggled in his last 6. But kind of the up and down nature of his season has transcended off the field as well, Kenny, with a little bit more.
They've dealt with some family difficulties for sure. In June, shortly after learning that his mother-in-law, Lori Nichols, had completed her treatment for lymphoma, the Hamills learned that his father-in-law, Bill, had pancreatic cancer. And Jason is very close with Bill. He lost his own dad at age 17, and that's why he went on the family medical emergency list from August 3rd to August 8th, so his wife Alyssa could go home to Rhode Island to be home with her parents. So what happened? Bill undergoes surgery, pancreatic surgery, on August 22nd. It took 10 hours. After that, he learned he would need 10 rounds of chemotherapy and 5.5 weeks of radiation. After his first round was complete in September, Alyssa asked him, "Hey, do you want to come out for the clincher, celebrate on the field with Jason?" The very next day, Bill was on a plane to Chicago. His answer obviously was yes, to Alyssa's surprise. And his doctor has told him he could postpone his radiation until after the postseason so he could be at Wrigley as often as possible as long as he is feeling well. And you can see here the celebration. That's Bill on the left, Alyssa on the right, Jason in the middle with their 2 children. Kind of a heartwarming story, and the Cubs are keeping Bill going for sure.
Wow, a terrific story indeed. And Kenny, I know that your bow tie benefits charitable causes week to week in Leukemia and the Lymphoma Society today.
Yes, it is, Matt. And obviously this one has special meaning here in Chicago. Anthony Rizzo and John Lester, both lymphoma survivors.
Terrific stuff. A ball and 2 strikes is the count to Matt Adams here, dealing with the leadoff hitter aboard in a 2-run game early on. Look out. Still the ball and 2 strikes to Matt Adams. It kind of makes you think that for Jason Hamill, that the every 5 days of just getting back there on the mound, while that is his job and his focus, it also serves as something of an escape when there are tough things happening at home.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, he has changed a lot this year to be prepared for the whole year. So to say that perspective has been put in place is an understatement, but Jason Hamill, he desperately wanted to shake a lot of what people thought about him this time of the year in the second half. And he really has, for the most part. He's done that.
Well, the Cubs with a 13-man bullpen and 4 left-handers, including Mike Montgomery, who's up a little early than anybody would have thought today. Adams hanging around. Yeah, back to the perceptions that Hamill has tried to shake this year. It was more than a perception. It was a statistical fact that the body of his work after the All-Star break had not been good. So he got onto a different physical regime this year and started out in great shape. Again, 6-0 right out of the All-Star break. Hit the little road bump shortly thereafter. I think all things considered, though, John, it's been a better second half for Jason Hamill this year than in years past.
Oh, absolutely. Coming out of the gate 6-0, like we mentioned, he's had 3 really bad games. 3 games where he's given up 10 runs. 10 runs, 10 runs, and 9 runs, basically. Not all of those earned, but bad games that would certainly put a dent in your career or year numbers.
Adams swats a fly ball the other way. Soler in the sun field all of a sudden. And that's the first down of the 3rd. Greater coverage of baseball is sponsored by T-Mobile, and a pitch-by-pitch sequence for Alex Reyes getting out of trouble in the 2nd.
Well, his low fastball sets up his incredible changeup, and that's twice he's been able to get 2 strikes on Rizzo and then finish him with that changeup, and that's a power changeup off of a fastball. And the key is it's got to be off the same height of the original pitch, the fastball that he threw previously, and very difficult, as good as Rizzo is with 2 strikes, to lay off a pitch down in the zone.
1 on 1 out now for the 7-time All-Star Yadi Molina, who ran a hitting streak to 10 with the 2-run double back in the 1st. Randall Grichuk waiting next. Peralta not a threat to run off of first. Chopper that's going to get over Zobrist and into right center field. And here come the Cardinals once more. I don't know that that hit the ground at all. That was just a flare that kind of looked like it chopped off the plate. St. Louis has a multiple base runner threat mounted again.
This one breaks the bat, I believe, at the end of the bat. Goes down with a hit, and that might be the it.
Wow.
And
Jason Hamill will not survive the third today. Well, his final home start, and it's been such a good home story this year, but it doesn't go as long as he would have liked. Hamill gone here in the third, what promises to be the first of many pitching changes today. We'll be right back. Jason Hamill gone here in the third time in his last 7 starts that he is unable to get through 4. Mike Montgomery takes over in the AT&T call to the bullpen. He inherits 2 runners aboard and 1 away with Randall Grichuk at the plate. Montgomery has been invaluable this year for the Cubs after being acquired from Seattle around the midway point of the season. He's made 5 starts this year and is appearing in his 46th game overall for the Cubs.
Yeah, he's got a good live fastball and a good over-the-top curveball. And I'll tell you, even thinking forward, the Cubs have tried to provide the best opportunities to be equipped to play whoever they play. But I right away think about Montgomery and his importance if they do play the Los Angeles Dodgers, as many left-handed bats they have in that lineup.
Grichuk into the gap in left center field. More Cardinal damage in the third. Here's Peralta to score. Molina held at third, an RBI double for Grichuk. Already a 3 RBI afternoon for the St. Louis center fielder. And the Cardinals go back out on top by 3.
No, I don't want it. You can have it. I don't want it. You can have it. Every time one team gets closer, the opportunity to shut down the Cardinals in the top of the half of the inning has not happened. And so far, the Cardinals have scored as the Cubs in every inning here in the third, looking to add more.
Here's Aledmys Diaz now. Diaz was a strikeout victim back in the first. Run charged to Jason Hamill, and one of the two runners on base currently still his responsibility. It's turning in to be quite an afternoon for Randal Grichuk, by the way. He has really been the offensive key, especially when you consider what could have been a devastating loss when Matt Holliday was lost for what looks like, unless he plays before next Sunday, a Holliday lost for really the duration of the second half. There's a chance that Holliday comes back before then. He was hit in the hand by Mike Montgomery, and there were those that thought Matt Holliday represents all the right-handed presence in this lineup, and they're going to not be able to survive without him. Here it was from August 11th, as a matter of fact, and that happened to be the day that Randal Grichuk hit a pinch hit home run, and Grichuk really hasn't stopped hitting since. There's ball 4 to Diaz, and the bases are again loaded for St. Louis. Kenny, it's been a couple of different reassignments for Grichuk this year, and since coming back up the second time, he has been exactly what the Cardinals had hoped for.
He has been, Matt, and if you remember at the start of the season, they were thinking this guy could be a 30-homer man, but it turned into what he called a crazy year. 2 minor league demotions. He was hitting .206 after his first 204 at-bats. That prompted the first demotion. But when he came back the second time, Mike Matheny told him, listen, just go play. And it's turned into a much freer Randal Grichuk. He said when he went to the minor leagues, he could work on some things. All eyes weren't on him. He took the demotion the right way, as did Colton Wong when he went down. It's paying dividends now.
Alex Reyes grounds to Zobrist to Russell for 1, and they double off Reyes at first. The damage minimized at a single run in the St. Louis half of the third. It's 6-3 Cardinals. Is the #1 live streaming sports service. It delivers everything you've come to expect and more. Watch every out-of-market game live in HD on over 400 supported devices. Visit MLB.tv for details. Well, Alex Reyes gets another run of support In fact, he has sat around and watched his offense give him at least a run in all 3 innings. And here in the bottom half of the third, he'll go to work on Ben Zobrist, Addison Russell, and Jason Hayward. 6-3 St. Louis. Reyes back to work. I wonder when you watch Alex Reyes, and we can watch him for the first time as we are live and in person today, what it looks like from the dugout, from eye level. And Adam Wainwright is kind enough to take some time with us today to maybe give us that perspective. Adam, good afternoon to you. Thanks for the time. Alex Reyes looks like he could stick around here for a while.
Hi guys, thanks for having me on. He does. He's a special talent. I mean, as you can tell, you know, when you watch him pitching, he has the whole assortment. He has 4 ridiculous pitches. You know, he throws almost 100 miles an hour. If he wants to, he can throw it over 100 miles an hour. I mean, everybody throws, it seems like, is trending towards 100 miles an hour. But you know what he does too is he doesn't just have the pitches, he has the poise and he has the confidence to go with it.
Ben Zobrist fouls that one off to stay a ball and 2 strikes. Zobrist, Russell, and Hayward here in the third.
Well, Adam, I know that this game is sped up and we see so many young pitchers being brought to the big leagues, but I'm impressed by his ability to shut off that 100-mile-an-hour and look more like a starting pitcher who's utilizing his secondary stuff.
Little tapper to first, and a close play. Adams gets there in time.
Yeah, he does. He has that ability. He and Carlos both do a really good job of that. They have the ability to throw the ball 100 miles an hour when they want to. They also can back off, throw it 93, 94, 95, 96 with movement. And now he's got the slider now. He's incorporating. He's got the big curveball. He's got the great changeup. I really like him. I think he's going to have I mean, obviously, you look at his stuff, you're like, yeah, he's got a chance. But what I love about Alex so much, he asks the right questions. He puts the time in the workout in the gym and out on the field. I mean, we can't say enough nice things about Alex. He's come up. He's done exactly what he's supposed to do. He's seen, not heard. He's working his tail off. He's pitching some of the biggest games of the year for us. He threw 7 shutout against the Giants at a tough AT&T Park the other day. So, I mean, you know, we have all the confidence in the world in Alex.
Adam, I know you guys have been through so much. You got a pedigree of 3 divisions in a row. Just talk to me a little bit. Has the mindset changed at all, or are you club just business as usual as you go down the stretch trying to fight for that playoff spot?
Well, you know, I think what we're battling right now is that everyone assumes here that we're going to be one of those 2 teams in the wild card. So what we're doing right now is we're making sure we show up every single day ready to play, ready to win a game, like it's the last game we'll ever play. Because you know, the fact is the 2 teams we're battling for that last wild card spot, they're good enough, they're talented enough that it would be our last game if we didn't take every game that important.
Full count, 3 balls and 2 strikes to Addison Russell. Batting with 1 away and the bases empty in the third. We continue visiting with Adam Wainwright. Next out there on Tuesday, Adam, we understand. And I mean, this is actually kind of a serious question as Russell sends one back to Reyes, who slips, and Russell's going to beat it out. It would have been a tough play. Here's a semi-serious question for you, Adam. Are you more looking forward to swinging the bat in your next start or being on the mound? Because you've turned into this RBI machine. We're all noticing.
You know, I want to do both. I want to pitch really well and I want to hit really well. I want to be dangerous at the plate. Make sure that pitcher out there knows he's got to execute. You know, if we have 9 tough spots in the order as opposed to 8, it makes our lineup that much deeper, makes it harder. I know if I'm pitching and I'm facing a guy who can really handle the bat, it makes it a lot more challenging for me as a pitcher. So I'd trade all the 18 RBIs to have about 21 wins right now in a 2 ERA. Don't get me wrong, but I'm having fun at the plate. I mean, it is. I'm having so much fun. I have a lot of confidence at the plate right now. I expect to go up there and get a hit.
Here's Jason Hayward now. That ball off of Russell's bat, by the way, scored an infield single. So 1 out, 1 on for Hayward, who popped out to end the first. I mean, that's kind of been the way it's been for the St. Louis Cardinals, Adam. And you've been around there long enough to know. I mean, for the Cardinals to lead the National League in home runs and kind of live and die on the 3-run home run, we're not used to watching Cardinals baseball that way. How's it been from your perspective on the mound?
Yeah, it's a different team. It's a different mix of guys. It's a different set of skills. A couple years ago, you know, we didn't hit many home runs, but we hit we had like the most 2-out RBIs in the game or something. We hit like 400 with guys in scoring position or something like that, something crazy. The next year we did it with pitching. We went out there and had the lowest ERA. We had the lowest every pitching category you could have. And this year's just a little bit different team. Now we're hitting the home runs, which is really the first time we've hit tons of home runs since I've been here. And it's all the way down through the order. It's even off the bench. The guys are, I think we set, if I'm not mistaken, we set the record for pinch hit home runs this year. We got a lot of guys that can hit the ball out of the park, and we're doing it. I mean, you know what? If you're going to live and die by that, you just got to hit them a lot, and that's what we're doing.
3-1 pitch to Jason Hayward is sent into center field. Long run for Grichuk. It's Carpenter from second who gets out there to make the catch, and they're 2 away.
Well, Adam, there are some unexplainables, and I would think that this next stat goes in an unexplainable, and next year it could completely flip-flop. But do you have any reasons at all to believe why at home just hasn't worked out for the Cardinals as you get ready to close out your season at home?
Yeah, it is an outlier. I really believe that. It's the craziest thing, and I tell you, we want to host that game anyways. We want to host that one game wild card. That's the goal right now that the Cubs have clinched. We want to host that one game. We're still confident at home. It's crazy. I mean, you know what? A couple years ago, we won every game at home. We lost every game on the road, and it was, why can't you guys win on the road? So, as you know, baseball is an up and down thing. You go through a couple of years in a row where you can't win at home, or you can't win on the road, and it all evens out. But there's absolutely no explanation for it. Our fans deserve better from us at home, no question about it. We should have been playing better all year there. It's one of those weird things that once you start thinking about it, if you start thinking about it, it can add up, add that extra stress and extra pressure on there. I don't know what it is. We don't show up thinking about it. Just after the game we get asked about it. Gosh, I don't know. I can't understand why we can't win at home. We have great fans that show up and support us every single day, and we show up confident every day. There's really no explanation. It's just one of those weird deals.
Adam, we really appreciate the visit. By the way, just one little move with your right hand, you can knock down that Gatorade tower behind you that somebody tried to build without your noticing it. We wouldn't hate you for that.
Over here?
Yeah.
I didn't know those. Oh, there it was. Sorry,
hey, we
Carlos.
appreciate the visit, Adam, and good luck on Tuesday and down the stretch. Thanks again for the time.
Thanks for having me on.
Adam Wainwright joining us from the dugout. Clearly, there's a foul pop that Moss can't get to. It's tough duty down there for a guy that's not a true outfielder and dealing with a bullpen mound and a sunshine field to boot. And Soler has another chance.
Yeah, it's a tough play when you got a left fielder coming in, and anytime they start messing with that bullpen mound, that is not fun.
So it's 2 balls and a strike to Soler. Russell aboard on the 1-out infield single. Hayward lifted a pop into shallow center. Reyes looking for his first scoreless inning today, and it looks like he's going to get it with a fly ball for Stephen Piscotti. Adam Wainwright sees all. Knocked down the tower, driving in 18 runs, and the Cardinals lead it through 3.
Today's telecast is sponsored by Hyundai and by Domino's. Order online and track your order. Still a 6-3 Cardinal lead as we start the fourth. Mike Montgomery continues on the mound for the Cubs. He'll face the top of the St. Louis order: Matt Carpenter, Stephen Piscotti, and Brandon Moss. And in the interest of fairness, after visiting with Adam Wainwright, we welcome John Lester to the broadcast this afternoon. John, thanks for taking some time with us.
Yeah, guys, no problem.
Been such a terrific year for you guys, and down the stretch, no exception. For you at 18-4, I mean, I can't imagine, and you're a guy that's been to 4 All-Star games and won a couple of World Series, but I can't imagine having much more fun than it looks like you've had this year.
Yeah, it's been it definitely is interesting in our clubhouse and dugout during games and after games and before games, all that stuff. We definitely are not short on having fun here.
Is that a function of winning? I mean, you've been involved with winning teams in the past. I mean, don't all winning teams have fun, or is it something a little different brand of fun here?
Well, yeah, obviously when you lose, you can't have too much fun, but yeah, the winning helps. But I think it's just the atmosphere that Joe brings, and kind of just lets us be us and lets us police ourselves. And obviously we do the crazy dress ups and all that fun stuff when we go on the road. And we got the NFL Sunday coming this weekend, so yeah, I mean, I think it's just a product of everything. We got a lot of different personalities on this team that like to have fun, like obviously Rossi and a few other guys, and obviously the youngness, the youthfulness that we have on this team helps. It keeps us older guys feeling good.
We'll take another look at Wilson Contreras. Looked like a foul tip off the hand. Oh man, just no good place to put that throwing hand apparently. Hey, as we discuss catchers here, John, let's talk about David Ross a little bit. You brought his name up. I mean, your friendship, your professional relationship with David has been no secret, of course, and we've been reading some things down the stretch where you have been extremely complimentary toward him and how he's kind of helped your 18-win season this year. Give us some insight. What exactly do you mean when you talk about all that?
Well, I got done saying something about it this morning. I think Rossi's a guy that you don't really appreciate until you're with him every day. Until you get to see what he brings to the table, even when he's not playing. It's hard to be a bench player and bring energy every day, and he does that, and it's unbelievable because I mean, there's days obviously where you sit on the bench, but you're kind of just tuned out and not really paying attention to what's going on. But this guy every day is locked in, cheering his guys on, always brings energy. Like I said before, always having fun. So I think for me, that's the most impressive thing. And obviously the relationship we have when we go out there and compete is completely different. Yeah, we're showing folks the ceremony that the Cubs had, that you guys had for him yesterday, kind of celebrating his career in this final weekend on the home regular season schedule. It looked like that caught him by surprise yesterday. It did, and actually a lot of us didn't know he didn't know about it. So we're glad that it didn't come up in conversation in the clubhouse before the game. And he told us when me and Lack and Riz got out here early, he's like, "What are you guys doing out here so early?" And we couldn't really say anything. So I'm glad it did catch him. I'm glad his family was able to come and be a part of it.
Well, John, I know that it almost seems that when Rossi's back there, and like you said, as a bench player coming out, he gets more enjoyment getting you through a game than he does in any other component of whether it's hitting. And he's gotten some big hits in your game. So it looks like this package deal, you could sense that he wants so bad for you to finish at the level and rate that you're going right now.
Yeah, and I remember him saying a little while back during the season that when he was in Atlanta and kind of took over the full backup catcher's role behind Brian McCann, it became so important for him that day to win. And he didn't care how they got there, what they did, but that day just meant it meant so much to him to win that day because that was his only day to catch in a week. So to hear him say that, I feel like he takes that same approach on the games that I go out there. And obviously he expects a lot out of me, so we have some friendly talks in between innings and sometimes on the mound that don't go so well for me.
Yeah, I can imagine here with him scoring right from first base. Yeah. You could see the parachute coming out.
Yeah.
And getting that run as you drove it in. But what visually, I know what he does behind the plate as it works in. You don't want to be out there shaking your head no a lot, but what do you like the way his setup and everything about his approach? I don't think people understand how important it is for a pitcher to be inviting to throw to a catcher.
Yeah, I mean, obviously he's a bigger target back there, which I think helps me. You know, a lot of my stuff is side to side with a little depth at the end, and he does such a good job of letting those pitches ride and catching those to where it almost looks like a strike as opposed to being a strike. So that helps. And just everything else he brings, the game calling, all that stuff, the game management really keeps me in line.
Hey, John, we really appreciate the visit. Thanks for taking some time, and good luck down the stretch.
All right, guys, I appreciate it.
A 1-2-3 4th. Cardinals still on top 6-3. Home half of the 4th, still a 6-3 St. Louis lead. Alex Reyes back to work against Wilson Contreras, Jason Hamill's spot in the order, and then Dexter Fowler. Mike Montgomery's been out there for the last inning plus, and we'll see if he bats in that 9th spot or if in fact there'll be a pinch hitter. And as soon as we ask the question, we see Tommy La Stella walking into the on deck circle. So Joe Maddon, true to his promise, looking for opportunities to keep his bench fresh down the stretch. And a foul tip off the bat of Contreras to keep him at 0-2.
Well, Alex Reyes has done a nice job. When there were some big time innings that could have got away from him, he came up with some clutch outs with runners in scoring position, and he would like nothing more than to start getting some clean innings.
Ball and 2 strikes to Contreras. Well, the closest thing to it was the 3rd when he allowed the infield single to Addison Russell and then nothing further. But 2 in the 1st on his watch and then 1 in the 2nd. The 1-2 to Contreras on a sharp hop for Diaz. And there's 1 away to start the home 4th. Last time the Cardinals scored in the first 3 innings of a game at Wrigley Field, it was July of 2012. They ended up winning that one 9-7. It wasn't that long ago, but it was such a different Cardinal team then. We've already documented the differences between the 2016 Redbirds and teams of earlier vintage. The fact that this is a Cardinal team that leads the National League in home runs, a major league record 15 pinch hit home runs, as Adam Wainwright reminded us. And here's La Stella pinch hitting now in the 9th spot. Well, the wind's still blowing in, John, and it was blowing in at 7 miles an hour at first pitch. It kind of brings me back to the point that you talked about earlier. The fact that we haven't seen many games, and Joe Maddon confirmed as much with us. There haven't been as many Wrigley Field games this year, and those usually happen in the summer with the wind blowing out, where, you know, the Dave Kingmans of the world and Mike Schmitz of the world would come in here and hit 3-4 home runs in an afternoon, and it would leave people wondering what they just watched.
Yeah, you could almost count on them. Here, Colorado, you watch games in Colorado and you understand why it's 14-12, 11-10.
And that's still happening.
Yeah. And you watch certain games, you don't have to see the game. You look at the score and go, oh, the wind's blowing out in Wrigley. Everyone who's been there, done that, knows it affects the way everything is approached. But this has not been the case this year, and they really have benefited in their starting rotation.
But both catchers have been beat up early in this one. Molina takes a foul tip. La Stella grounds it to first, and that's the second out of the inning. But my question is this, and I'm no meteorologist certainly, but I wonder if there's a change atmospherically, or if some of the construction in the outfield, notably the huge video board in left center and the big scoreboard down the right field line, if that's changed the way the wind blows around here, and if that's contributed into the rarity of those big wind-blown afternoons.
Well, you know, even with that scoreboard, if the wind's blowing in, it could actually add and aid a ball that is not hit high in the air. So line drives are still going to be able to have some damage here, and that's what they were hoping.
Dexter Fowler out to right center field and into the gap. Fowler heading for third. Hey, this is going to put him a home run shy of the cycle. Singled in the first, doubled in the second, triples here in the fourth.
Well, supposed to be away. He pulls it, and he knows as soon as he hits this, at this point, he's got the gears to turn on when he wants to. What else do they got going besides individual awards, MVPs, Cy Youngs, and why not a cycle?
Here's Chris Bryant now. You know, just to button up the conversation on runs at Wrigley this year. Last season, there were 3.9 runs per game scored at Wrigley Field. This year, 3.91. And those are the lowest runs per game totals at this ballpark since 1992. Now, I'm sure Chris Bosio and the pitching staff, Joe Maddon as well, they want credit given to the pitchers themselves, and that's certainly a great point. But that doesn't speak to the opposing side. The Cubs rotation well documented, and deservedly so, as being one of the best in Cubs franchise history. The fact that Jason Hamill struck out 8 batters today, and he fell a handful short. The Cubs would have been just the second pitching staff to have 5 guys win at least 10 games and strike out at least 150. You know who the first pitching staff was to have done that? 5 guys with at least 10 wins and at least 150 strikeouts.
I'm going to say us. We had 15 wins out of all 5 guys at one point.
All right, so you're right about the team. What year? Give me a vintage for your Braves.
I'm going to say when Denny Nagel was on our team.
Got to help me out. I don't know that off the top of my head.
I'm trying to figure out. I have so many years playing. I want to say late 90s.
98.
Yeah.
Year you guys lost to the Padres, I think, in the NLCS. Ooh, Reyes wanted that pitch. Just missed the corner. Full count, 3 balls and 2 strikes. Anthony Rizzo next. 2 gone, runner at third, and that's beaten up the third baseline foul. To a busying bullpen. See, Trevor Cahill was up earlier. He looks like he's hot and ready to go. The next 3-2 home, and that's in for a called strike 3. Second straight scoreless inning turned in by Alex Reyes. He survives it despite the 2-out triple, and it's still a 6-3 St. Louis lead. On October 4th with the AL wildcard on TBS, and then October 5th with the NL wildcard on ESPN. Then October 7th, the National League Division Series begins on FS1 and streaming live on Fox Sports Go. Alex Reyes with a big strikeout. He was as excited as he's been during this start to strike out Chris Bryant and strand a 2-out base runner at third and hold his 3-run lead. Cardinals bat in the 5th. And they'll do so against a new pitcher. The second reliever used by the Cubs today is the veteran right-hander Trevor Cahill.
He was huge for him last year after acquiring him from the Braves. The Braves got him from the Diamondbacks, and this year providing innings out of the pen. Sinker ball that acts like a bowling.
Johnny Peralta with a shot into left center field, a leadoff single. Yeah, we talked about the postseason a moment ago, and for the Cardinals, that postseason urgency has already begun. Starting play, as we mentioned at the top of the telecast, a half game back of the second wild card spot. Giants are in San Diego again tonight, and the Mets host the Phillies again later on this evening.
You look at those three teams. Of course, the Giants still have to end up playing the Dodgers, but the Dodgers will have that locked up.
Bouncer for Rizzo. He gets one himself and then throws down to second to double off Peralta.
Oh, once Rizzo got it right here, this was an easy decision. Step on the bag, give him plenty of time to apply the tag. Easy double play.
There are a lot of clinch possibilities today. There's Yadi Molina now with the bases empty. And in the National League, the Nationals can clinch their division, the NL East, if they beat the Pirates and if the Mets lose tonight. We'll start talking about some of the three-way tie situation formulas a little bit later on. Turns into a quick inning despite the leadoff single. Still 6-3 St. Louis. Alex Reyes with a couple of big strikeouts, actually three of them. He gets Rizzo twice, and then to end the fourth, runner at third strikes out Chris Bryant. A big one for him. Ken Rosenthal with a little bit more.
Well, that last one was on a slider, and that's a pitch he came up with. Well, he always had, but he came back with it once he got to the big leagues. Derek Lilliquist, the Cardinals pitching coach, always asks pitchers when they come up, what is your repertoire, and did they take any pitch away from you in the minors? To the second question, Reyes said, yes, they made me stop throwing my slider. So Lilliquist had him throw it in the bullpen. He wanted to see the spin. And then in a game against the Cubs on August 13th, Reyes' curveball wasn't working. So Lilliquist told him, throw it to Yadi between innings when warming up, the slider. Let's see it again. They started using it that day, and he's not using it often, but it's a weapon for him now.
Boy, and again, a lot more confidence with it, as Ken reported earlier, because when you get the seal of approval on a pitch from Yadi Molina, tends to go a long ways.
No doubt, and he's able to massage his starters, young or old, through a game and know what is best. Yadier Molina is so prepared. He's got all the scouting reports. They go through their meetings. He knows what the weakness and strengths of each hitter is and the weakness and strengths of his pitchers.
Rizzo lines into left. Brandon Moss handles it, and there's one away to start the fifth. So now Ben Zobrist, he had the big 2-run triple in the first that kind of counterpunched that 4-run start to the day that the Cardinals hung on Jason Hamill. Last half inning, we were talking about some of the clinch scenarios on this Saturday in Major League Baseball, pending the outcomes of many of the night games tonight. There is one other game in progress as we speak. Detroit, very much in the wild card hunt in the American League, has a 3-1 lead over Kansas City. We'll update you as to how that got to that 3-1 score in a bit. But in terms of the clinch scenarios in the American League, the Red Sox can clinch a playoff berth if they beat the Rays tonight and if Baltimore loses at home to Arizona. If only one of those things happens, then Boston clinches no worse than a tiebreaker. Zobrist into the corner and foul. Cleveland can clinch no worse than a tie for the AL Central, even if they don't clinch a playoff berth outright tonight. And that'll happen if they win and Detroit loses to Kansas City.
Well, the American League certainly has more suitors for playoff spots as far as the quality of teams than the National League. Basically, 3 teams in the National League have been going at it for a while, and all 3 teams have lost on multiple occasions, where you just know that getting that one spot locked in would be huge.
And there's ball 4 to Ben Zobrist. So with 1 out and 1 on, talking about the Tigers and Royals, and Ryan Field has an update back in Los Angeles. Ryan. And the Tigers have that second wild card spot in the American League, a half game better than Baltimore. Seattle's hanging around, so are the Astros, and even though there are a lot of teams to overcome, mathematically speaking, the Yankees are still alive in the wild card race.
You know, every game counts. I mean, that's stating an obvious, but there have been some really bad losses for teams. I mean, teams that if they hadn't lost that type of game, who knows where they would be. The Yankees against the Red Sox, the 5-2 lead. The Astros have blown 2 really big games of late.
Yeah, yesterday
3-run leads.
Brutal for them.
Those are the kind of games that when you're desperate and you have to win, it has an emotional just cliff that you go off as a team when you lose that kind of game like these teams have.
2 balls and a strike to count to Addison Russell. Well, a team like Baltimore, who seems to play its way out of the conversation occasionally, really has never gone away altogether. Toronto and Detroit with the 2 wild card spots in the American League as we speak. That is certainly subject to change based on the closeness of that race. We'd like to schedule watch this time of year and see who's got the toughest road to hoe down the stretch. We know that the Astros are playing only the Angels and Mariners. Seattle plays Minnesota, Houston, and Oakland down the stretch. It misses inside to Russell, and it's 3-2. Zobrist at first with 1 gone, 3-2 to Addison Russell with Jason Hayward waiting on deck. And a swing and a miss. Alex Reyes reaching back for that 96, still there when he needs it, and there are 2 away. Quick reminder, today's telecast is sponsored by T-Mobile, bringing you greater coverage of today's game.
Fastball above the hands. Dialed it up.
Here's Jason Hayward now. He's popped out twice today. Reyes starts him with a fastball in for a strike.
Fair or not, this is going to be an interesting conversation as we get closer to the postseason. the handling of Jason Hayward and the choices that Joe Madden will have on his roster come playoff time. It's not been a year that Jason Hayward had expected it would go, or obviously the Cubs. But people will forget a lot if he's able to come up with a few hits at the right time.
I think of particular concern to the Cubs, and this matchup kind of best personifies what I'm about to say. It's Hayward's inability to make consistent contact even with a big fastball, let alone do damage on it. The major league average against a fastball is 277. Jason Hayward's hitting 244 against fastballs this year. Kenny, there are no real good ways to kind of slice up Jason Hayward's year at the plate. However, the Cubs will defend his 2016 season by talking about some of the other things he brings to the team.
That's right, Matt. His defense and his base running, and the players will tell you they want him in the lineup. They love his demeanor. They love what he can do outside of the batter's box. 4th lowest OPS in the majors. That's obviously not good. But what I expect is for the Cubs to start Hayward against right-handers and maybe not against left-handers and then bring him in for defense late. But of their 3 potential first-round opponents, the only one that really has left-handers right now is the Giants.
Strike on the corner, and it's a full count now, 3-2. Yeah, Jason Hayward has been a reverse. His 2016 season, that is, has been a bit of a reversal in terms of the progress you'd thought he'd make. Just 7 home runs, 45 RBIs. His opus runs with 2 away, and it's fouled off. And it used to be that, at least at the time he signed that big free agent deal, you could say, all right, Jason Hayward's not going to hit 330 and drive in 130 runs, but you know, you could count on maybe 265 to 280, 15 to 20 home runs and RBIs. And even those seemingly modest numbers, Jason will fall short of.
And that's what you see a lot of right there. A lot of pop-ups.
Alex Reyes gone after 5 innings of work with 115 pitches under his belt and a 6-3 lead. Today's telecast is sponsored by Hyundai. And by Falcon Tires, the official tire of Major League Baseball. What a gorgeous afternoon here in Chicago. First Saturday of fall. Folks still enjoying the weather in shorts and t-shirts, as well they should. And a 6-3 Cardinals lead. Mike Matheny visiting with Alex Reyes after 115 pitches through 5. Best guess is that his afternoon is done. Trevor Cahill on the other side of the scorecard, back to work on Randal Grichuk, who has been chief among Chicago's problems today. Grichuk with a 2-run single in the first and an RBI double in the third.
Yeah, the Cardinals have really needed to step up their offense and try to get some momentum down the stretch. Talked about their home run hitting ability, but they've come up with some big hits early in this game. And their pitchers come up with some big outs with runners on to give them that 3-run lead. Now they'll turn it over to their pen.
Cubs overload the left side of the infield. And Grichuk lays off a fastball that stays high. Aledmus Diaz waiting next, and then the pitcher's spot. You know, Trevor Cahill came on in the 5th inning, and it kind of reminds us as to where we are on the calendar here in September, where there have been so many pitching changes, and we've talked about that already, with deep bullpens on both sides and throughout the league. Managers are quick to pull the trigger. In fact, to the degree that entering the weekend, there have been 9.2 pitchers used per game in September. That is the highest in any full calendar month in Major League history, as Grichuk is rung up for out number 1. And we're going to see more today. Both bullpens are hot. It looks like Alex Reyes will be done for the afternoon.
And that'll get fixed. I really believe that'll get fixed. That's a rule that they'll have to alter come September call-ups with the amount that pitchers you can utilize. It's not fair to the game. You play all year. But I'll tell you, it's also increasing before September at an all-time high. Most pitchers used per game.
Yeah, that's a good point. Aledmus Diaz has struck out and walked today. Trevor Cahill's been a really valuable member of the Cubs staff this year, and Joe Girardi told us something similar as to what Joe Maddon has echoed throughout the year last week when he talked about how important it is to have that one guy, that swing man, one or two, if the payroll would allow, a veteran pitcher like Trevor Cahill, the guy that's capable of giving you length. Now, the Yankees have that now in Luis Severino. That was Girardi's example. But a guy that you can go to on back-to-back days, could make a spot start in a pinch, could chew up long innings in a pinch. Cahill's done all that stuff this year.
That's why I think the Cubs have temporarily beat the system of what's been created in baseball. Everyone's gone out to get power arm, power arm, power arm. The health of a power arm we've already seen, very volatile. They went out and got veteran pitchers, but they established their young core players, position players with dynamic picks that they didn't miss on. Then they go out and get a bullpen that can handle anything that's thrown at them. They get starters, turn them into closers or relievers, Wood, Cahill, and the likes of just the effort that they can put forth with their power arms out of the back end and their rotation. Incredible.
Pinch hitter will be Jeremy Hazelbaker, and that's going to be all for Trevor Cahill. Travis Wood enters a pitching change, and we'll be right back. MLB.com @bat app. Stay up to the moment in any moment with game day, live video highlights, StatCast, news, and more. Download MLB.com @bat, the #1 app for baseball on your phone and tablet. So one change countered with by another. First, Travis Wood called on to work on the mound, making his 74th appearance of the year. He too has been invaluable out of Joe Maddon's bullpen this year, not only because he's been great on the mound, but because he can play left field as well. Something Maddon's done with him on a couple of occasions this year. And Wood pitches to the pinch hitter as Jeremy Hazelbaker was burned in favor of the right-handed power threat Jed Jerko, who, as you can see, has been on some kind of a home run tear since the midway point of the season.
It's an unbelievable stretch. Started against his former team, the Padres.
Yeah, they have come in bunches for Jed Jerko at San Diego's expense primarily, but I mean, you want Jed Jerko to come alive, just schedule a doubleheader. He has homered in both ends of a doubleheader on multiple occasions this year. Yanks that one foul. Jed Jerko's contributions maybe best personify the interchangeable nature of the 2016 Cardinals lineup. He's hit 5 or more home runs at 3 different infield positions this year. That might sound like no big deal, but before this season, it had only happened a handful of times in Major League history. Cardinals happen to have 2 players on their 2016 roster who have that kind of versatility, because Matt Carpenter has done the same thing this year.
And they're also out of their mind in pinch hitters this year.
And Jerko waves and misses at strike 3.
Climbs the ladder with the fastball, tries to get it. And does not.
2 gone now for Matt Carpenter.
They were on, Matt, they were on such a crazy pace. Pinch hit homers, pinch hit average. Still pretty good coming into this game. 329 as a team. That just doesn't seem possible with 15 home runs.
0-1 the count to Matt Carpenter, who has been held hitless so far today. Back to Wood, who makes a fine play to retire the side. Travis Wood comes out of the Chicago bullpen, strands the 1-out walk, and keeps it a 3-run ball game.
And welcome back to Wrigley Field. Chief among the many sights and notable destinations in Chicago these days. Matt Bowman is the new Cardinal pitcher, and on his first pitch opening the last of the sixth, he gets Jorge Soler to ground to the left side of the infield. And there's one gone for the new Cardinal pitcher. Rookie right-hander Matt Bowman making his 55th appearance of the year here this afternoon.
Bowman's got a fastball slider. He throws a pretty good changeup. He reminds me of Tim Lincecum in his delivery, the way he goes about throwing his pitches and how he sets up hitters. So maybe he was a fan of Tim Lincecum growing up because he looks like he's modeled his pitching motion around it.
Yeah, even his stature. Bowman's listed at 6 foot 175 pounds. Lincecum-esque.
Yeah. Maybe not as much as a turn, but everything he does arches the back and utilizes that frame and comes straight over the top right at the hitter.
Counts 0-1 to the catcher Wilson Contreras, who's been held hitless so far this afternoon. St. Louis scored first, and they did so with 4 runs as folks were just settling into their seats in the top of the first inning. The Cubs counterpunched with 2 in the first. St. Louis scored again in the second.
See, when you're bored and you're starter and you're on the bench and you're thinking of all different things to do other than the game you're about to pitch.
Right.
You look at the first 3 innings and goes, look, the Cardinals dialed information 411. That used to be the old information, number you would dial. Is there a 210 area code anywhere? Sure, there might be.
San Antonio, I want to say.
Okay, so they dialed the San Antonio area code, and there hasn't been much since then, but you come up with games like that. You see which area code team's going to go after.
Nice backhanded pick by Diaz. But rather Contreras beats it out. Close play at first. Mike Matheny waiting to see if he wants to challenge this. It's going to be scored as a single. Man, I can't tell you even looking at it again.
I tell you what, Contreras sure didn't get down the line. I would think
Is it worth it? Ball's got to be in the back of the glove, remember.
Yeah. Well, this is about as long as you can wait. Typically, you want the team to respond quicker, but I'll let it go.
And Mike Matheny decides not to issue a challenge. So it is an infield single for Wilson Contreras, and now a pinch hitter for Chicago, the veteran left-handed hitting catcher Miguel Montero.
He's swinging the bat a lot better, and they need this guy, I think, to continue a red-hot bat from the left side.
Well, most recently in a start on Wednesday, had a 3-for-5 afternoon. Last week hit a walk-off homer against the Brewers, part of a big September for Montero. It's been his best calendar month of the season. But as you start to guess about postseason roster formulation, I don't know that it guarantees anything there, Kenny. I mean, he is a veteran presence for sure, but there are a lot of options as far as what the Cubs will bring to the division series.
There are, Matt, but I'm guessing he makes it as one of 3 catchers. And the reason for that is the Cubs can go with 11 pitchers. We've seen Wood today and Cahill. They're multi-inning guys. So is Grimm. So they're going to have some choices to make, no question about it. But they also need left-handed hitting. Montero offers them that. So he should be on there.
Back to Bowman to second for 1, and the double play takes care of a scoreless last of the 6th. Still 6-3 Cardinals. Off tonight with the Big 12 showdown as Oklahoma State faces number 16 Baylor at 7 Eastern on Fox, or watch it live on Fox Sports Go.
Touchdown's going to be hard to come by in that game.
What?
Exactly the opposite. Run and shoot everything. It won't be boring.
Hector Rondon inserted in by the Cubs to work the 7th in the pre-Aroldis Chapman looking Cubs. He was the closer before the trade deadline, and then some health issues landed him on the shelf for about a month. A right tricep strain cost him a month between early August and early September. He is still, according to Joe Madden, looking for opportunities to kind of straighten himself out down the stretch here before postseason time arrives.
Yeah, these next 7 days will be great for him. And you think about Strop and the ability for them to shorten a game. This is a huge part of their club if they can get Rondon back the form he was before they got Chapman.
A ball and 2 strikes on Stephen Piscotti, leading things off in the visitors' half of the 7th. Piscotti has contributed today. Back in the 2nd, a 2-out solo home run against Jason Hamill, his 22nd of the year. As we show you all the requisite numbers courtesy of StatCast, powered by Amazon Web Services.
450 feet. And the ball was thrown in at 265 feet from Waveland Avenue.
I think, by the way, we have that captured on tape. There it is.
All right, maybe 195 feet.
A bouncer back up the middle and through. Stephen Piscotty's aboard on his 2nd hit of the game, trying for 2, and he'll get in there well in advance of an errant throw. I think Piscotti caught everybody off balance there, especially Soler and Fowler in the outfield.
Yeah, it used to be about 5-10, more like 10 years ago. This ball and the old surface would have never even gotten that far. That's how thick the grass was. But he knew as soon as he hit this, he had 2 in mind, and it was in a perfect angle between the left fielder and the center fielder, as you see right here. They reacted a little slowly to get into the ball, but Piscotti did not hesitate at all. I'm telling you, back in the day, that was the #1 thing every coach told you. If you get a base hit to any fielder, the grass was so thick that they were picking it up, and you had to take the extra bases. The infield grass was so thick when Maddox was pitching here. It just swallowed up baseballs. It's a lot different today than it was back then.
It scored as a double for Stephen Piscotty. He's in scoring position with nobody out for Brandon Moss, who has walked in 3 trips to the plate today. We talked about Moss's September struggles. They go back a little farther than that, but they have been most pronounced in the season's final month. He's 5 for his last 72. That's over a 21-game stretch, hitting about 60 cents. But Brandon Moss is the kind of hitter, again, who can find it with 1 swing of the bat. Go back to his all-star season of 2014. He got into the break in great shape, but something happened after the all-star break and the power just disappeared. Second half of the season, he hit $1.73 with 4 home runs. So the Oakland A's, his employer back then, weren't quite sure what they were going to get in their wild card matchup against the eventual league champion Kansas City Royals. Brandon Moss got there as cold as anybody in baseball. He went on to hit 2 huge home runs in that wild card game, including a late 3-run shot that made it look like Oakland was going to go on to the division series. We all know the rest of the story. Kansas City came back and went on a magical postseason run. But the Cardinals are hoping for that same kind of lightning in a bottle from Moss down the stretch this year. Still 2-2.
The timing of all these guys, just some of the ones that are struggling, if they can wake up in time and at least put themselves in the playoffs, I think they're so dangerous Not because the pedigree warrants that they're going to win every big game they play. That's not the case. It's just the mindset that they have with their rival Cubs, and in a one-game playoff with the opportunity to advance with not a lot to lose. If you think about it, last year the Cardinals had everything to lose. They won 100 games despite their limping into the playoffs because of their injuries. They went in as favorites. The Cubs were able to knock them off. Cubs ran out of gas against the red-hot Mets pitching staff. It could actually work the other way if the Cardinals get in. The Cubs are going to be the team that wins over 100 games this year.
Moss grounds it into the shift. Rizzo flags it down. A great play. And Piscotti's held at third. Rizzo preventing a run from scoring for the time being. Well, talking about the Cardinals and their postseason hopes, a half game out of the wild card race at the start of play today. Again, New York and San Francisco playing later on tonight. The Giants are in San Diego. The Mets are home with the Phillies. There is that chance that the regular season could end a week from tomorrow in the dreaded three-way tie.
Oh, it's not dreaded. I've been dreaming of this.
Snap throw down to third. Close, but Piscotti's back.
Dreaming of this scenario, man.
Yeah, the schedule maker's nightmare. Something John Smoltz has been privately rooting for the last 3 years. A ball and no strikes to Johnny Peralta, who's sitting on a 3-for-3 afternoon so far. So if it ends in a three-way tie, again, only two of those teams can go to the wild card. How do they determine what happens? Well, there is a formula.
Home run hitting competition.
Oh, wouldn't that be fun? No, teams are designated A, B, and C based on their head-to-head record. So B would play at A. The winner gets the first wild card, and then the loser of that one plays C for the second wild card. Now, which team is which, you might ask? The Cardinals won the season series with San Francisco. The Mets have won the season series against the Giants, and the Cardinals and Mets split their 6-game series. So with no more games remaining between any of these teams, the Cardinals at 7-6 are A, the Mets at 7-6 are B, the Giants are club C. So if it's a three-way tie.
So golf handicap has nothing to do with this.
No.
You don't go to your golf handicap.
No.
Okay. All right.
If it's a three-way tie, as we saw earlier, B plays at A. So that means the Mets play in St. Louis. The Giants are club C. Got it? The loser plays there. I know, it's ridiculous, right? I mean,
but that's all well and good. I want to see a three-way playoff for just one spot. That's what I want to see.
Oh man, here it is again. So we'll fill in the A, B, and C. The Cardinals and Mets. The Cardinals are A, the Mets are B, the Giants are C. Based on head-to-head record. Runners at first and third now for Matt Adams.
Anything but the ball on the ground for Matt Adams. I'm sure that's kind of what he's looking for, a pitch that he can elevate. Reverse for Rondeau. Try to get it down.
Oh, 0-2.
Well, Bumgarner goes today for the Giants, so if you're a Giants fan, you got to feel like at least the edge on the bump is going to your team. Now, whether or not you can score some runs, which they haven't been doing lately. Problem is, Cueto may not make his start. And the Mets, with all the Scotch tape and everything they've put together.
It's been an amazing story there. This was supposed to be Noah Syndergaard's night. He's sick. I mean, what else for the Mets, right? Surgeries. I mean, you're talking about elbows and shoulders and thoracic outlet syndrome in the case of Matt Harvey. And today, Sean Gilmartin will make another spot start, another emergency start for the ailing Noah Syndergaard, who's got strep throat. A ball and 2 strikes to Adams.
Well, if you believe in schedules, the Mets schedule lines up pretty good for them.
Just in terms of strength of opponent? Is that what you're talking about?
But if you're one of those teams, like the recent series against the Braves, who have gotten hot lately, that didn't bode well for the Mets.
Yeah.
They got swept at home.
Yeah, these are not the same Braves that in April, May, and June looked like they would set an all-time futility record. They played a lot better since the break. Adams sprays a drive into left center field. Piscotti comes around to score. On his way to third is Peralta.
And the usually good defensive club by the Cubs not going to make Joe Madden happy with that throw being thrown in, allowing the not fleet-footed Matt Adams to go to second base. This throw needs to come into second base and prevent Matt from going to second. But we watch this ball just kind of in the same area we've seen. Soler gets the ball but doesn't go to second. He's throwing the ball the wrong place.
So credit Matt Adams with an RBI double. He will be pinch run for as Tommy Pham enters at second base, and the Cubs will bring the infield in now for Yadi Molina, who's in the midst of a 2-for-3 afternoon with a pair of RBIs.
And doesn't see a first pitch that he doesn't like. That went out of the zone, up.
Cardinals have matched their biggest advantage of the day after they scored 4 in the top of the first. Back out to a 4-run lead courtesy of the RBI Matt Adams double here. Still 0-2.
You see Adams coming out of the box. He knows he's got a base hit, but now he's watching as the outfielder takes the ball. Now see, he turned it on right there. Once he realizes that goes to shortstop, that puts Matt Adams at second when he shouldn't be.
Cardinals have a big opportunity here to deliver a knockout blow. Their hottest hitter waiting on deck. Yadi Molina with 2 runners aboard. The 0-2 pitch home to him is through the hole. What little hole there was on into left field. Both runs score, and it's a 9-3 ball game.
By Adams getting a second, that kept the Cubs out of a double play situation. That's going to be it for Rendon. But Molina, their hottest hitter of late, has delivered again.
There was 0 real estate on the left side of the infield between Russell and Bryant.
Pham had to do a nice job avoiding Russell and Bryant as he was rounding.
Everything going the Cardinals' way at Wrigley this afternoon.
With the AL wildcard game on TBS, and then the following night the NL wildcard game on ESPN. Then October 7th, the National League Division Series begins on FS1 and streaming live on Fox Sports Go.
Well, here you see it. There's the hit, splits the defenders, and then Pham's got to avoid him on his way to going home. A little step over right here. Good enough speed to take him all the way back to home plate.
3-run inning for St. Louis here in the 7th. They are enjoying their biggest lead of the day, and it has forced the Cubs to the bullpen yet again. Their 4th reliever of the game is rookie right-hander Felix Pena.
Felix Pena, of course, you saw the numbers, not a lot of experience, kind of set up like Pedro Strop. But as the next few games go on, Joe Maddon will have, as we mentioned earlier, more of a strategic approach to his bullpen and his starters, how much time they spend in the game.
Quickly in front of Randall Grichuk, 0-2.
You can't help but think, though, if you're, Bryant, Rizzo, and all the talks around the MVP and trying to finish as strong as you can, Lester, Hendricks, competing for the Cy Young.
And that one hits him. 0-2 pitcher just got away from the rookie right-hander, and Grichuk's aboard. Well, on those days, and you talk about, two guys in play for the Cy Young Award in Kyle Hendricks and John Lester. On those days, the intensity's going to be there.
Exactly.
For the very reason that you mentioned.
Exactly.
It's the other days that I think Joe Maddon knows he has to do a little bit more, quote-unquote, managing.
Yeah, and he said he's never been in this spot. He's been in a place where it's a lot easier when each and every day means something, right? They're going to look at this to make sure that that's exactly what happened. But I think for the Cubs, and it's just natural for your mind, like, we made it. We pushed all year. We got to this point. Man, the playoffs can't get here fast enough. You got a chance to get your little dinged up injuries healed up, but the mindset of a player, and especially a position player, if you don't stay locked in, it's difficult to turn it on and off.
Hey, by the way, I don't think that pitch hit Randall Grichuk at all.
He didn't react.
I think that came off of Contreras' glove in such a way that it looked like it hit Grichuk.
Hit the bat, huh?
It was either the bat or it hit Contreras' glove. I don't think it hit Grichuk at all.
Grichuk was just doing what the umpire said.
Yeah, and now we see there's the cheeky smile.
I think it might have nicked the end of the bat to the glove, so
yeah, they're sending him back.
Well,
so it'll be an 0-2 count once again.
In the wild card era, we talked about 3 of the last 4 National League teams that went on to win the wild card, went on to win that next series. That's how much that momentum could be part of the 4 or 5 days off that the host team, in this case the Cubs, get to wait to play someone.
0-1. 0-1 the count to Randall Grichuk. No, it was 0-2. Doggone it. Had it right the first time. A swing and a miss. And there are 2 away. So now Aledmys Diaz. Getting back to your point on how difficult it is on the team that is the first to clinch, and one that does so with so much schedule left as the Cubs have this year. They clinched the division on September 15th. And in the wild card era, the first to clinch team has not been guaranteed the success that you might think. Only 3 teams in the 21 seasons in that era have gone on to win the World Series. Last year's Royals, the Giants in 2012, and the Yankees in '98.
And we just don't punish the other team enough. That's simply put. And baseball's not played to have 5 days off, especially when you've done this work to get the best team in baseball. So too many days off, not enough games. We love the 1-game playoff as far as the excitement of it, but you're not punishing that team as much as we originally thought when it was like, oh, they'll have to use one of their best pitchers to get through that game. Well, as we've seen, there was a day off after the season, then the wild card, then another day off, and it's not punishing them as much. So I just think that system of the playoffs has to change if we want to reward the teams that have been the best throughout the year. Period. We got to get there.
Ball and 2 strikes, the count to Aledmys Diaz. Well, what would you do? I mean,
you just don't have the days off. We travel and get in at 2. You know, you get in at 2 in the morning anyways in a regular season game, and we always talk about the nationally televised games or Sunday nights or anything. You deal with that. You just have to make the other team play continuously.
And Diaz bounces it to shortstop for Addison Russell. That'll put an end to the inning. Hey, one of the things to watch is coming up next, because Dexter Fowler has singled, doubled, and tripled today. A cycle bid as we go to the bottom half of the 7th. To walk you through Dexter Fowler's day, it started with a single in the first. He'd later score a run. Then in the second, an RBI double. And it got more interesting in the fourth when, with 2 away, he tripled against Alex Reyes. In order: single, double, triple. And in what could be his final plate appearance, but if I'm a guessing man, I'd say he'd have one more after this.
Yep.
He's got a chance at the quote-unquote natural cycle. Matt Bowman continues on the mound for St. Louis. A couple of changes defensively behind him. Brandon Moss moves from left to first base, and Matt Adams, who was pinch run for, schedules out. Tommy Pham takes over in left.
And the catchers are getting beat up today. A lot of foul balls catching their equipment and certain parts of their body.
And it's 0-2 to Dexter Fowler. Did you ever face a guy who was either a home run or a hit shy of a cycle? I mean, as a closer, do you ever recall being out there?
Yeah, I wouldn't. I'd be too involved in the game to know if that particular player was in line for something. As a starter, I can't even remember if it came into play, to be honest with you.
Still 0-2 the count to Fowler.
Usually if that's happening, I don't think the starter sticks around.
And a swing and a miss. He may have one more chance still. Well, if you're wondering, the last Cubs cycle, our friend Mark Grace back in May of 1993, the Padres were here at Wrigley Field.
Now that would have been funny if he'd have shown my pitching against him. Not having any recollection. And oh, by the way, he did it against you, John.
Well, the first 3 hits came against the same starter. And then he got the home run against the left-hander out of the bullpen. So 1 away, and again Fowler may have another opportunity still this afternoon. Chris Bryant, the batter, he has walked in 3 trips to the plate. The last quote-unquote natural cycle for a Cubs hitter was Billy Williams back in 1966. The Hall of Famer did it against the St. Louis Cardinals. That is to say, in order: single, double, triple, home run. Don't get me wrong, there's no real value to hitting for the cycle. It's just kind of cool.
It's really cool.
And beyond the monster contribution, the monster total base contribution for the day, a wave and a miss by Bryant, who's having kind of a rough go of it today. 2 away. Reminder, today's telecast is sponsored by Michelob Ultra, brewed for those who go the extra mile, and by Cialis.
Now Bryant really has cooled down. September coming into this game, he was hitting .235 as opposed to June and August .323. So they'd like nothing more than maybe even a day off or 2 next week, and then get him geared back up, swinging the way you want.
Javier Baez is the pinch hitter, batting in Anthony Rizzo's spot in the order. Remains to be seen how the Cubs will realign defensively without Rizzo, who's been out there for just about every inning this year. Dribbler up the third base line for Peralta. Throw is picked out nicely by Brandon Moss, and Matt Bowman has faced the minimum through 6. Continue, who go out there at shortstop in the midst of some wholesale changes by the Cubs to start the 8th, despite landing awkwardly at the bag to end the 7th.
Yeah, hustling pretty much down the line and just got his steps just a little off. See the foot getting the base and maybe just a little bit of a hiccup there with the knee.
So some changes afoot. We have a new pitcher on the mound for the Cubs. Joe Madden has gone to the bullpen now on 5 occasions. Rob Zastrinzi takes over on the mound for Chicago. Making his 7th appearance out of the bullpen. And a pinch hitter will face him. Jose Martinez bats to lead off the visitors' 8th. And it is starting to look more and more like a Cactus League game all the time.
I was just getting ready to say, you know, he's done a nice job for the Cubs. He's filled in some pretty nice spots. Sneaky quick. Saw a breaking ball right there. Nothing overpowering, but he just pitches.
Zastrinzi misses the corner. Zastrinzi came up on August 19th from AAA Iowa. Put together a pretty good season between AA Tennessee and AAA Iowa this year. One of the 13 relievers available in the Cubs bullpen, 4 left-handers.
13.
Into the corner. That's a fair ball and extra bases for Jose Martinez. Well, here are the rest of the changes for Chicago defensively here in the 8th. Matt Caesar takes over in right. Minonori Kawasaki at second. Chris Coughlin at first. And we've already set the new pitcher and shortstop. Can bet Dexter Fowler's not coming out of this game. Love another chance to try to complete the cycle. Here's Matt Carpenter now back to the top of the order. Carpenter, the only Cardinal starter not to have reached base today. The only other game in progress on this Saturday afternoon, almost all the activity at night aside from this one here at Wrigley, and the Royals and Tigers, who are now in the 7th inning with Detroit still on top 4-2. Detroit started the day with the 2nd of the 2 American League wildcard spots. In terms of the National League wildcard, the Giants later on tonight in San Diego. Mets hosting the Phillies at home. And the Cardinals, if they can hang on to win this one, at least for the moment, create a 3-way tie, picking up a half game on the rest of the field. Wave and a miss by Carpenter.
You go through stretches of time where you just don't pick up the ball real well or don't see it, and Carpenter might be in one of those. Last 30 games has been not typical of what we've seen Carpenter be for the Cardinals. And a 235 clip coming in, and again, it only takes a couple at bats to turn that around, but when you're in a funk, it just, I wish the timing were earlier in the year.
Fades a fly ball into right. Soler circling under it and making the catch for out number 1. Speaking of Detroit and Kansas City, let's get an update from Ryan Field in Los Angeles. Yeah, the Tigers getting kind of sneaky hot down the stretch here.
They are, and they have that unique part of their schedule where they end the season outside their division and in interleague play. Taking on the Braves, final 3 games of the year.
Man, that just doesn't seem right for one team in contention to be out of the division like that. Is that a home series?
For the Braves. They're on the road. Yeah, the Tigers are on the road. And the reason I know that is because I'll be attempting to throw out the first pitch of the final game at Turner Field.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Myself and Glavine. I don't know if Maddox is making it or not. But I'll be honest. I'm not going there cold. I'll be doing some practicing.
I know how competitive you are.
And it frustrates me when whoever they have catching that pitch, stand up. Do not squat. That's not good recipe for me, because I'll be throwing it from the the mound area unless all three of us go in front. I'll just throw it straight in the dirt. I know I will.
Has Maddox already reached out to Eddie Perez to see if he'll come back and catch that for him?
But that's what the Tigers have. They have the final 3 games for Atlanta, in Atlanta. Major playoff implications, I'm sure, at that point for the Tigers.
1-2 strikes to Stephen Piscotti. Brandon Moss waiting next. Yeah, the Tigers with the second wild card spot. I want to correct what I said earlier regarding the National League race. If the Cardinals hang on to win this one, they'd pull into a tie with the Giants for the second wild card spot. Mets lead St. Louis by a game and a half for the top position. So unlike what's happening in the American League, all the National League wild card suitors end the season within their respective divisions.
Yeah, and the key there is they're both with the same losses, right? So St. Louis is going to play that extra game to determine the difference in that half game that you see right now.
Piscotti dumps a pitch into left center field. Another base hit for the Cardinal right fielder, and another run as Martinez comes around to score, making it a 10-3 ball game.
You see the schedule right there, and that's where St. Louis and Pittsburgh is not mathematically out, by the way. They're still at the heels. If they can do some damage down the stretch, I don't think they can lose but 1 or 2 games, if that. But that'll be a big series against the Pirates. If they're still having any hope, let's say they got to sweep the Cardinals.
Ball and no strikes to Brandon Moss, who has walked in 4 trips to the plate today. You know, the way the schedule laid out on opening day, and Joe Madden shared this with us earlier today, he was fully expecting the end of September to be that schedule gauntlet.
Yeah.
He had the Cardinals and Pirates down the stretch, and knowing what we knew from the NL Central last year, you expected there to be kind of a 3-way logjam with those clubs. It's into center field for Fowler and 2 away. He admitted to us that as much as he knew he had a good team this year in spring training, he didn't think that he'd be in this position, having mathematically clinched as early as they did to make these interdivision games as meaningless as they are.
Well, with the exception of only one time during the season where the Cubs looked human, they've dominated baseball. That one stretch around the All-Star break where they lost a bunch of games. Their starters had a couple uncharacteristic starts, and they looked tired a little bit before the break. I think the break rejuvenated them. In the second half, they just came out smoking.
Ball and no strikes to Johnny Peralta. Yeah, Kenny, we can bring you in on this, because for a manager who leaves very little to chance, he's had to kind of redo his plans on the fly based on how much better the Cubs were than anybody thought.
He has, Matt. But the good news is they've been able to rest players all season long, limit their starters. They've gone to a 6-man rotation late in the season, hold their innings down. So I would expect that, at least from a freshness standpoint, they'll be fresh. Now, he's going to have to do some things during that 4-day layoff between the end of the season and the start of the division series as well. But the plan is day after the season, day off. That Tuesday, simulated game, then workouts the next 2. And this is a competitive group. They like playing. They like winning. I don't expect them to let down.
High fly ball for Coughlin off the first base bag to retire the side. One more in the Cardinals' half of the 8th.
to the bottom of the inning. All St. Louis at Wrigley Field today. Broadcast is sponsored by Domino's. Order online and track your order. And by the Lincoln Motor Company and the exhilarating new Lincoln MKZ. Aerial coverage brought to you by DirecTV. If you call yourself a sports fan, you got to get DirecTV. Call 1-800-DirecTV.
You ever been in a blimp?
No.
I think I would enjoy that. I don't have many bucket list things. I want to get in a blimp.
Yeah, it's not for me.
Well, the conditions are got to be right. So, I mean, you know, you're not going into a blimp when it's 30-mile-an-hour winds.
I don't even like being in third-floor apartments. Some changes defensively for the Cardinals as Zach Duke, the veteran left-hander, takes over on the mound. Carson Kelly will catch the remainder, and Greg Garcia takes over at shortstop. Chance with the big late lead to get Aledmus Diaz and Yadi Molina, who've dealt with some nagging injuries this year. Diaz in particular off their feet here for the remainder of this day. Chris Coghlan leads it off for the Cubs. Coghlan, Caesar, and Kawasaki here in the Chicago half of the eighth.
Duke's kind of revived his career now in the bullpen. Dropped down, sidearm delivery's been real funky. Remember him as a starter, more conventional pitcher.
Tough matchup for Chris Coghlan. He sends a ball out to center. Grichuk parks in front of it, and there's one away.
Yeah, good luck getting it out of center field at Wrigley Field with any kind of wind blowing in. That's the one part of the ballpark that the wind's going to have its way with any ball that's hit in the air.
So one gone now for Matt Caesar. Caesar would be among those players that Joe Maddon wants to get some opportunities for down the stretch here. There's 3 for his last 36. And you wonder what kind of role he would play in the formulation of a postseason roster. There just aren't enough spots to take everybody.
No, there's not, but a lot of good choices for Joe Maddon and the Cubs. And from series to series, you can change your roster. Right now, the only thing the Cubs are concerned about is trying to get one guy on base and avoid the double play. That'll give.
That's right. That's right.
That'll give Fowler another at bat.
That's Albert Almora Jr., who would also be an outfielder vying for some consideration. Called strike 3, taken by Caesar.
There's Munenori Kawasaki now. Kawasaki was a September call-up. His third stint of the season came on September 6th.
Tell in spring training, this team had a lot of fun with this young man. He's high energy, plays some defense, maybe struggles offensively a little bit. They Cubs do not lack the fun factor.
Yeah, Kawasaki has been that guy that's brought a fun factor everywhere he's gone. And to your point, he's not going to hit many home runs. He might not hit the gap very often, but he's versatile, and his teammates everywhere he has gone love this guy. Broke in with Seattle back in 2012. Time with the Blue Jays. A swing and a miss from him here. And it's a quick 8th for Zach Duke. On to the 9th. Still 10-3 St. Louis. Today's Budweiser game summary. The Cardinals scored 4 times in the top half of the first inning and really have not looked back, enjoying a 10-3 lead currently. Among the big contributors on the St. Louis side, Yadi Molina with 4 runs batted in. Randall Grichuk has driven in 3. Alex Reyes with a successful 5-inning start today, benefited from a lot of offense. And the Cardinals trying to stay in that wild card picture with a win to force a tie for the moment with San Francisco, who plays a little bit later on tonight. Spencer Patton is the 7th Cub to pitch in this one. He'll work here in the 9th and get Tommy Pham to start things out for St. Louis. Pham, Kelly, and Grichuk here for the Cardinals on top 7-3. Spencer Patton has been up and down between the big league club and AAA Iowa 4 times this year as he gets Pham looking. There's one away.
Yeah, he's along with a lot of other pitchers on this club. Sneaky quick fastball. Slider has good break. Changeup acts more like a two-seamer. Getting a chance to see almost the whole roster today.
Here's the catcher Carson Kelly. Took over behind the plate for Yadi Molina an inning ago. What was it that Buck Showalter was telling us earlier this week in Baltimore, talking about how when you're going to play this game with middle relievers, you have to make sure you have enough guys with options in order for you to manage the innings. And that throw from Baez goes bad at first base. Kelly's aboard.
Yeah, and what that means basically is you're going to have guys that can go up and down and take the grunt off of most of the guys that don't have options and can't deal with those innings. There's not setup guys, or I should say long guys anymore in the game. There's not that sixth starter that could be valuable in the bullpen. Baseball has gone away from, for a lot of reasons, those type players that were invaluable, that ate up those innings, that maybe in a 6-run game, was able to keep it fairly without it getting embarrassing and having a position player come in and pitch. But those days are gone, and that's what baseball suffers from, I think, sometimes, is because these short stints and sprints that relievers are having to eat up so many innings.
And I think those players have quote unquote gone away for the reason we touched on, in that, why would you, if you're a general manager, why would you feel like you had to extend yourself financially for a guy who's got an ERA in the mid-4s, whose role is going to be that you just described, when you can utilize younger players with options, guys like Spencer Patton? You can drop him up, drop him down, bring him up, manage the innings flow in your bullpen, your major league bullpen, by using guys that are between that AAA and big league shuttle all the time.
Yeah, the only problem I see with that is in short stints it's okay. It's just not sustainable. You can't do that year in and year out. You see the shelf life of clubs be able to get away with it for only so long. If your starters don't eat innings, it's going to show the wear and tear on your ball club, no matter what you try to do. The Yankees were really good the last couple of years doing that with the amount of pitchers they brought up and down. But you're talking about 32 to 36 pitchers a year then. That is a tough gig when you're having to get through a season. Now, what the Cubs have been banking on is a veteran presence of their starters. They have an outside chance. Today hurt. Hamill only going 3 to get 1,000 innings out of their rotation, which is a goal of Joe Maddon's every time he steps into a baseball campaign. And by numbers alone, just clubs don't reach that anymore.
Right.
They don't get to that number.
Well, that is among the things that has gone so well for the Cubs this year. They've enjoyed a clean bill of health in their starting rotation. Little DL stint by John Lackey, one of the rare exceptions. Joe Maddon spread out his rotation to a 6-man group by design around the midway point. And a wave and a miss by Grichuk.
But the other point that I keep making is we're so quick to do that, we don't have the patience to develop a pitcher. So if he doesn't have quite what it takes coming out of the shell, they throw him right into the pen because of his arm. And you're missing out, I think, on some dynamic studs in the rotation. We've just devalued the role of starters and put more emphasis on velocity and short-term results. In other words, spring training like games where you're seeing an average 10 to 11 pitchers per game on some occasions between the two teams.
Here's Greg Garcia's first plate appearance of the day. Yeah, spring training or September. I mean, I get back to that Red Sox Blue Jays game, the first Sunday of September,
18.
where there were 18 pitchers used in a 9-inning game.
Yeah, that's got to be the driving force if you're up for seeing that to change. That cannot be the norm. Think about playing 5 months of your season, competing with one set of rules, and then the most important, crucial month down the stretch, you're facing teams that could throw 5-6 left-handers at you if they want because of the call-ups. Or how about even just the utilization now? They're training guys to run, become professional pinch runners.
Yeah.
At that time of the year where they maybe can't hit I mean, Gore comes to mind for the Kansas City Royals, and that's unbelievable, the role that he was able to produce for them.
It seems Charlie Finley was onto something in the 70s with the likes of Herb Washington and Matt the Scat Alexander. You had a guy that you could come up, run, pinch run, try to steal a base, at the very worst score from first base on an extra base hit, and that's your role on the roster. Garcia slaps it to third. That's a foul ball. All the unstoppable drama of the 2016 postseason begins on October 4th. Go to MLB.com/postseason for a complete schedule. Soon-Hwang Oh is up in the bullpen for St. Louis. You saw him earlier. Well, he's been outstanding ever since being installed in that closer's role for the Cardinals. And a base hit into right field. So runners at first and second with two gone. And with the pinch hitter digging in with 2 out and 2 on, we take a look at tomorrow's series finale matchup. John Lester looking for winner number 19 on the season, and Carlos Martinez, who has been the Cardinals' most consistent starter all year, at 15-8.
That's a good one tomorrow night. That is going to be. Runs may not come at the rate they came today, that's for sure. John Lester's locked in. He's got his eyes on the prize of not only the postseason, but he'd like to bank a Cy Young award, and it's between him and Scherzer and Hendricks. If you ask me, Hendricks, just an incredible year. Consistent all year. They just didn't give him the amount of runs that they've given all the other pitchers.
Here's Brian Pena now. Kenny, last year we talked about the Cy Young race in the National League, and Clayton Kershaw and Zach Greinke possibly splitting the vote. Do you see the same kind of scenario with the two Cubs leading the charge this year?
It could happen, but Scherzer is a factor.
On a hot for Kawasaki. We'll continue this discussion as we go to the bottom of the 9th inning. Can't take it a break with Kenny saying that Scherzer is a factor. We'll have more on that when we come back. Back, our prevailing moments of the game are sponsored by Hartford, and Randall Grichuk provided a pair of them. A 2-run knock to make it 4-0 in the first, and then a shot here in the third that ensured it and made it a 6-3 lead. I say ensured because the Cardinals haven't given up a lick since. In fact, Chicago hasn't gotten any closer since that moment. Cardinals have added on. Certainly it's a 10-3 St. Louis lead, and they are 3 outs away from evening up this series. They've turned to their closer in a decidedly non-save situation, but for Soon-Hwang Oh, he has not pitched since Monday.
Yeah.
And he'll work the 9th inning here today.
And you know, he's one of the rare guys where it doesn't matter what situation he pitches in. His numbers are the same. Non-save, save. He's been tough to hit since the Cardinals made that change and put him at the end of the game. More consistent results.
Jorge Soler, the first to face him, sends a drive, a lazy fly ball out to left. It's handled by Pham. I want to get back to Kenny on the Cy Young discussion, because Kenny, you floated the idea that Max Scherzer is going to have a say-so in terms of the vote split, and it's not just going to be Kyle Hendricks and John Lester getting consideration.
Right, here's where we are, Matt. Hendricks and Lester are 1-2 in the league in ERA. Scherzer leads the league in strikeouts and innings, 7th in ERA. But I want to ask John about this because I'm curious about his opinion. Scherzer has thrown 38 1/3 more innings than Hendricks, but Hendricks has Scherzer in ERA by more than 3/4 of a run per 9 innings. So you have 2 sizable gaps in important categories. How do you look at it, John?
Yeah, that's a great call, and it's always interesting. But then when you break it down and you go, all right, Scherzer in 33 starts has thrown 1 more out per start. It's all in how you break it and make it look, right?
Contreras with a high drive into the corner, and that one is gone. Number 11 for Wilson Contreras, and he knew it right off the bat.
But to finish that thought, I would say this. I mean, that does matter. Innings pitched and being able to go to the post every single time does give you a slight advantage. And I think what Scherzer has done is put himself in more categories along with Lester of dominance. So if you've got 5 or 6 categories you basically look at, those 2 guys come up a little bit bigger than Hendricks. Oh, by the way, under the radar, just been fantastic all year. Here's the other number I would look at. When I look at the Cubs and the starters, Hendricks is 0-7 when the Cubs got him 2 runs or less. 0-7. He's 15-1 when they've scored 3 on up, right? 7-1 when they've scored 3 to 5 runs. 8-0. The Cubs as a whole have won 59-1 on their starters when they score 6 runs or more. So that offense has given them the flexibility and luxury to pitch with the lead. 4-23 when 2 runs or less. So we all talk about the glass half full, that glass half empty. You can pick apart anything, right? And basically the Cubs don't play a lot of close games, and they don't have a huge record in close games, but they haven't needed it.
Well, I certainly don't fault a guy. By the way, every time I see Kyle Hendricks, I think he's Craig Counsell. Let's get that out of the way. But I don't fault a guy for being 0-7 when his team gets him 2 runs or less. You're supposed to be, you're not supposed to be that good.
Right.
There's a fly ball into right. And by the way, I don't want to lose sight of what's happening on the field in our Cy Young discussion. The home run by Wilson Contreras guaranteed that Dexter Fowler would have a chance
for the cycle.
At the cycle.
And to finish my last thought, in the 7 games that Hendricks is 0-7, Lester in those same 7 games 3-2. That's the difference of having a monster year like Lester is, taking advantage and going 500 or less or better in those starts. So
make a good point.
Anyways.
Well, here is Fowler. He has singled, doubled, and tripled today. Struck out in the 7th. And had it not been for that Contreras 1-out home run in the 9th, he would not have had this opportunity to try to hit for the cycle. It's not going to matter as So gets him to pop up. And Soon-Hwang Oh finishes the 9th and wraps up a 10-4 St. Louis win. So with the Cardinals win, they have pulled into a temporary tie with the Giants for the 2nd wild card spot in the National League. The Giants are in San Diego later tonight. The Mets home hosting the Phillies. Only 1 game between those 3 teams atop the National League wild card post. For John Smoltz and Ken Rosenthal, Matt Vasgersian saying so long from Wrigley Field, where the Cardinals have defeated the Cubs 10-4. We'll get you out to the studio with Ryan Field, Eric Karros, and CJ Nitkowski right after a quick commercial timeout.